On this episode of the Star Wars Time Show, Matt and Nick will hopefully be joined by Brian Sipe, an award-winning makeup artist with a crazy amount of pop culture franchise credits, including The Mandalorian. After the interview, the dudes will keep the Star Wars talk going by covering some of the juicier quotes from Total Films' Kenobi coverage. They'll also talk about a little Acolyte rumors and some new casting headed to that series. And don't forget, they're also going to touch on Star Wars Ragtag, aka Amy Hennig's game. Of course, the show will end with the fan segment featuring Question of the Week responses and the latest Star Wars fan artist features. Punch it, Chewie!
Hey now, everybody, and welcome back to a special and brand new edition of the Star Wars Time Show. And I know all of you are always asking when I break out big words like special, why is it, Matt? Well, if you're on the live stream, and I don't see too many of you yet, but I know you'll be here, we have a fantastic guest. This is award-winning, Emmy and Saturn Award winner Brian Sipe, who is a makeup artist and also at times on certain productions runs that department. Is that correct, Brian? You do like makeup and hair. You kind of the department head at times.
Yeah, that is correct. Although I'm not a hair person, so I'm not a hairstylist, so I won't ever claim to be. But specialty makeup.
Makeup artist to the stars, and in particular has worked in the Star Wars universe, but has also, as you can see, like I said, if you're on the live stream, I have his website up with some of his feature film credits, at least recent ones. But we're talking Marvel, DC, Terminator, you name it. Brian Sipe has been involved, so super excited.
Star Trek too.
Yep, Star Trek.
For our fans. This is Star Wars.
We're gonna have a fight here. Well, we know Brian likes Star Wars better. He doesn't have to say it out loud, but we know deep down that he likes Star Wars better. So, welcome to the show, Brian. As we said before we went live, I first found out about you from Dominic Pace, who is an actor that I guess you two have known each other or knew each other. And it was kind of like happenstance. He showed up and you were doing a makeup test on him, and one thing led to another, and he got a little bit part in the first season of The Mandalorian. So it's good to finally get you on the show to talk to you as the one that
thank you,
that hooked him up, but also has had a very impressive career in Hollywood, both in film and TV. Like I said, for those of you diehards out there, if you've been watching the Mandoverse shows, The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, you have seen Brian's name in the credits. And I always like that you get a nice prominent billing. It's always a big Brian Sipe. You're not, included in some of the smaller credits. So,
which I understand. I think that's kind of unheard of for TV. But we kind of volleyed for it, and we're able to get it. And I share the credit. I'll share the credit with Alexi Dimitriou and Maria Sandoval, co-makeup designer and the hair department head.
Well, y'all,
rightfully so.
You all deserve it, and like I said, this is the first time we've met. We're meeting virtually, but just knowing your name through Dominic and seeing your work in the Mandoverse and Book of Boba Fett, it always brings a smile to my face to see your name up there. So, like I said, it's a big get to have you on the Star Wars Time Show. So,
no, thanks. I appreciate you guys reaching out, and the tenaciousness of reaching out. I know that it's been a long time coming.
Well, yeah, our PR guy Spencer, he's kind of like a pit bull. We keep him locked up in a cage. So if he got a little too pushy, let us know, and we'll make sure not to give him dinner tonight.
No, not at all. I mean, that's good. No, it's good. It's sometimes it's needed.
All right. So Let's kind of get into this. We don't like to do traditional interviews like, hey, how was it working on Star Wars? I mean, sure, that'll probably come up, but we first like to kind of get an idea of your own possible fandom for Star Wars. It is a Star Wars podcast. We tend to want to talk about Star Wars every once in a while, even though, Nick and I sometimes go on very odd tangents about non-Star Wars. But you personally, Brian, have you been a fan of Star Wars, or was it, just working on The Mandalorian? It was another great gig working for Lucasfilm, or do you have some past connection to the franchise, either as a fan or other jobs in the past?
I mean, as a fan, I don't know, what was I, 11 or 12 when the first one came out, and and I remember going to see it. A friend of mine took me there. He'd already seen it, and and just, blown away, again, like everybody else, it was, a universe that really hadn't been explored, like in some of the movies at that time, and it really did change the way movies were made, the way the stories were told. And, but I remember that same friend, I remember him getting the album of the story of Star Wars or something like that. And we would play it on the record player. And then like him, my sister, and myself, we would like act out all the parts and just, do that. And, I used to practice drawing, and I think I still have some of my drawings somewhere of like, my attempt at like R2-D2 and Stormtrooper and Darth Vader. And so it was, it captured, captured my attention. Captured my interest. It wasn't until much later that I kind of decided to get into makeup, specialty makeup, because I was just a kid, and I guess 3 or 4 years later, I realized that it was a job that somebody could do. So
it sounds like you kind of got into it through friends and family, which is an anecdote that I think a lot of us share, which speaks to the power of Star Wars. I mean, I still think
And just seeing the movie itself,
right.
And I don't remember how many times I saw it. But I remember, it's funny that this never happens anymore, but this particular theater in Beaverton, Oregon, area where I grew up, I think they're known to, I guess they played it longer than any other theater in the United States. Like it played for, like
3 years.
Some crazy thing like that.
It's like making money. We're not pulling it.
It was always on the big screen, and I mean, like, when do you see that? It's just like you're lucky if you get like a 2-week run in the theater now before they throw it to the red box.
Well, you're right. I mean, I was just thinking about that when you're saying it. You'll never see that again, because these days. No. I mean, especially with Warner Brothers movies, you get 45 days of box office, and then it's going to our streaming platform. And that's what just happened with the Batman. So that is interesting to think. I was also thinking about back then, you actually had to fight people for seats. You couldn't reserve your seats like we can now.
You were standing in a long, that line always was going around the block. Always.
Some of these newer generations.
Even a year after it was still going.
Yeah, these new generations just don't know the sacrifices we used to have to make to go see a film. I mean, come on, we had to buy paper tickets at one point in time, people.
And you couldn't
no pre-orders, none of that stuff.
When you could actually buy your seat. Oh, I want that one.
Yeah. The movie going experience, at least in my opinion, has gotten a lot better these days. I don't know about you all being in the industry. I'm sure you'd like more people to get back in theaters, or I don't know, maybe you've been seeing some of the benefits of streaming these days, especially you with some of the recent Star Wars series you've worked on. I guess that is a question. Do you kind of like the way Hollywood is changing, or did you prefer the old days of there were movie stars, there were TV stars, there were movies, there were TV shows?
I mean, there's something grand about, like the theater and going there. It used to be, where, until it started getting really expensive for a family of 5 to go out, so I think that, as a family person, I think that's when you start appreciating, like the whole streaming service, because then you can just like,
great point.
Get the Orville Redenbacher going over there. We're going to have some,
right. Throw the popcorn bag in the microwave. Yeah. We're not spending $10 on an AMC large box. So, I mean, there is there's benefits to both. I could see. I just don't know if it's affected. I would assume for, the movie stars out there, it might affect the way they'd been getting paid in the past versus how they get paid now. But
I think it did. And then there's been a lot of, the last few years, when contract negotiations come up, that's been like one of the big, I think this last year, I think they got a big win over that, because earlier in the contracting, it was, they didn't know what the internet was. They didn't know what streaming would be, so that there wasn't anything that really covered them. So I think there's been a few years now that they just kind of got, screwed. But I think they've kind of, righted that course a little bit.
No, you're right, because it was, I think this fall or winter, there was a big showdown where they thought a lot of productions were going to be halted because of that contract and getting language in there for better working conditions for the non-stars, but also streaming considerations and how that should be paid out. So interesting. Do you find that has the shift affected your department at all, or is it still you're just going to work making making a movie or a TV show? Yeah. Okay.
It does in some of the way that our union oversees what happens on set for us and tries to take care of us, but a lot of us I think we're here just because of the passion of it all, right? We just do it.
Are you all as a makeup artist, are you in SAG or do you have your own union?
I am in SAG, as a SAG puppeteer, from years ago. Sleepwalkers got me in, I think.
All right.
And a 706 union makeup artist.
Got
awesome.
you. All right.
I have one question off the back of this TV versus movies thing, because you've been in huge stuff on both the TV side and the movie side. So with a show like The Mandalorian, that's almost unheard of. You're talking, multi-millions of dollar budget per episode, direct to streaming. How does something like that, like The Mandalorian, compare to like a huge budget movie like Terminator Dark Fate or X-Men Dark Phoenix, something like that? Do you still have like the same, quality of work you would, or, quality of materials now that the TV end has exponentially increased in its budgetary range?
It's that's the rub going from film to TV. The one thing that the creatives did at Lucasfilm was to, a lot of the people they hired, they brought in lead positions. We're all film people, so that we all have a standard. And they have a standard. And I think they knew that like we weren't going to come in any other way. So, we have to rise to the occasion, in some way, shape, or form. That's like the big thing. Because, budget's always going to, be a factor. But scheduling is always like the biggest factor of, TV show. It's like, okay, we got a script and this is what we're doing next week. Or this is, a lot of the times they've already mapped out the season, so they know if something big is coming up and they try and get ahead of that. But there's oftentimes where it's like, okay, we're going to do that big scene now. We need, 12 aliens, 2 humans with, whatever, and, and go. And then it's just, just going
on your feet. Yeah.
So I guess that you said something interesting. How do do you work with the concept artists to kind of come up with some of your creations, or do they give you carte blanche to figure out what an alien character may look like?
Both. They have one of the main artists, production artists, is a Doug Chang. He works out of ILM, and he does. He oversees a lot of the main things, the big things, and he's the one too. If I do something, that I go through him, and and then the other creatives, so that it still makes sure that it feels Star Wars. Make sure that it fits in this place.
So that they still have to sign off. But have you done something and let's just say Doug's like, damn, Brian, that is awesome. Thank you for doing that. You made my design better. Do you remember any moment like that?
You know what? I don't know. I think that he always seemed pretty happy with everything that we did and translated. He can be very specific, and so it was easier the first season when we were all in one place. Trying to.
It's a good point. I forgot you had a COVID season,
video,
right?
Photos to convey what the sculpture is. It's hard because of COVID.
Yeah.
Because if you're standing in front of it and you can look and see how the light's hitting it, it's different. But also part two of that was, there would be a lot of things where it's like, okay, we need a bunch of aliens for this scene, for Garza's palace or for the Fight Club, and then it would be, pulling stuff out of my, my past, like old molds or something. How can we reuse this? Or how can we do this? Or we can stack prosthetics on top of each other to create something. Or the first season, myself and a few of the team, we just sat in the trailer cutting foam pieces, kind of old school, and gluing them on bald caps, and then gluing another bald cap and sandwiching them and trying to make headpieces, and just to try and change the silhouette so that it just wasn't all humans.
Right.
And it's doing designs. Myself and Alexi, we would do designs either in Procreate or I liked Forger on my iPad. It was like a real nice, fun, fast, simple.
So you can also draw pretty well. Then is that what we're getting at? You are also
no. I'm not that artistic, but I mean, with all I gotta say is the iPad and some of the apps in there, it helps me, and it helps me a lot. So, but like Forger, I think is a great one, just because it's a 3D sculpting thing that you can kind of push things around quickly, and within an hour I could have a shape to convey, and a lot of it, that's what it was. And so we would do that, get the hair department involved, pull in hairstyles, and we'd have to show them so many pages of, okay, this is what we could do. And then they would, yes, no, yet no, that's Star Wars, that's Star Trek, that's Harry Potter,
Ooh.
that's Firefly. I mean,
awesome.
they were very, very specific on what, they wanted to see, and they knew, what they felt was Star Wars and what was not.
Did they break out? See, I only asked this because of all the studying I used to do of the prequels and the behind the scenes and watching George Lucas. Did they break out his stamp where he goes around? Like, he'd actually go and stamp stuff that he approves. Did you see the stamp?
No.
Are they still using it? No?
No. I didn't know that. That's funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Because I can only imagine. I mean, I have zero artistic ability, but I can only imagine, people like you in the makeup wing and the artists. It must be nerve-wracking to have someone like him walk into a room and you're all kind of doing like a show and tell. And hey, is the man going to approve my work? Yes or no? And he just comes through and he's like, no, well, I mean, yes, no.
He came down a couple of times, but I think, that he's pretty much, I mean, he's passed the reins off,
right.
And so he's got it, he's got a couple of,
so were you on set the days he visited then?
Yeah.
What was that like? Just the atmosphere. I mean, was everyone just like, "Ooh, George is here," or was it just kind of the same day, different week?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a different atmosphere because obviously it's this is the creator. He's
right.
kind of walking in, and he's the one who he's why we're here. So it's interesting. And then I remember one time they were sitting around Video Village, and I was kind of walking by. I think I was touching up somebody, and you could just kind of hear him talking about, everything about the Jedi, and talking, it's just kind of neat, just hearing the perspective from,
right.
The mouth. And, it was
it's got to be almost surreal. I mean, I don't know like how big of a Star Wars fan you ended up becoming, but I think just being in the industry and knowing what that man has done for everything, like just how he's increased the technology that's used, sound design, video production, and almost everything he's had his hand in.
Everything.
So
it's pretty amazing, but I mean, I didn't start hyperventilating. I know some people did, but I mean, it was.
Oh my God, George is here!
Yeah, but it's pretty cool. It's just one of those moments that. It's pretty cool. It was cool.
Yeah, because
I mean, there are a few times. I think there've been very few times when I've actually really been like starstruck or, almost starstruck.
What's one of them? What's one of them? It doesn't have to be Star Wars. What was it?
No, one of them was when I worked on Ali.
Okay.
And I had been on set. I was doing part of Will's makeup, and I was there on Tuesday. I was there on Thursday. I guess Wednesday, Muhammad came to set.
Oh no!
And I was
you missed
really?
it.
Like that would have been like wow, to be in the presence of the greatest. And then another one was when we were at, I think, Princeton, and met John Nash from A Beautiful Mind. Like the guy,
right?
It was kind of cool. And I mean, and the other one was from one of those other star shows and Pointy Ears. And
we like Star Trek here. Trust me, we're not weirdos.
Yeah.
We love all sci-fi. It doesn't matter.
No, but that one was. I mean, that's like him and Muhammad were kind of like the two most iconic. I mean, you can't look at a book about makeup and not see Nimoy in the ears.
Yeah.
You just it's and that's also a part of my childhood. So I was in the trailer helping, and I feel somebody sit down in the chair behind me, and I turn and there he is, and it's like, wow, okay.
So did you actually get to do the makeup for him in the first JJ Star Trek? No.
Yeah, no. That was I'm trying to remember who did those ears. I don't remember now. I know it was Joel Harlow was running the prosthetics department there, and I was helping him on Eric's makeup for Nero, and I can't remember who was doing the ears, but that was pretty cool. I mean, that's just one of those special moments. And at one point, I think on his last day, he gave a little speech, and he had said, it's like, what did you say? It's like, it's been 40 years since I put these ears on.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah, it's just, and I mean, it was
that would be pretty cool. Yeah. Fan or not, that'd be pretty cool. I mean, he's another one. He's an icon starting way back in the early 60s, I think, when that show first kicked off. So,
yeah.
On that note, is there like a holy grail of like makeup stuff that like you would give anything to be able to do it, whether it be like go back in time and do like the original Spock ears, or is there something that like, is maybe like coming back, like an old series coming back that like, man, I like to do this one piece of makeup would be incredible?
I don't know. Good question. I don't know. I mean, I think I'm pretty happy viewing all that stuff and using it as my reference for some stuff, because like some of that stuff like always comes around or comes back around. You're always going to put ears on somebody, or I was over with James McKinnon. He was running the show for Picard, and going over there and helping with their Romulans, and it's we've all gotten the chance to do a version of it. I don't know. I wouldn't want to ruin it. I mean that. Some of that stuff was done, even if it wasn't done like super great, it just set things in motion. It just set us all in motion to follow. Like when I did Guardians of the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, David White, he was the lead in England on that show. And when we got, when I got asked to be on it and to help run it, I was like, big shoes, huge shoes to follow in, because they killed it, so.
Well, yeah, as poking through your site, it looks like on Guardians, you worked on Drax, Taserface. Did you do Gamora's too, or?
I sculpted her pieces, and was there for some of the tests. We were trying to work out some of the ways to maybe change the quality of her skin, make it look a little bit more. I think James was afraid that it was like it felt too flat before, and they had to go in and do some stuff. But it's just slight changes on her. A redo on the pieces, for her forehead and cheeks. Drax was like a complete redo. Taserface was a new character. I mean, that was a fun one. We had the vision of hindsight, so we saw everything that they had done. And,
right, the first one.
Yeah, and so then in ways to try and make things I don't know, stronger, faster. You know, we were able to look back at what they did. You know, and you know, all their stuff was so fun. It was, you know, so much fun.
How is it working with James Gunn? I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know him from Adam, but I love a lot of what he does. I like the way he writes and shoots, and obviously the way he incorporates music. Is it a fun set to be on?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, he was there on Suicide Squad too. I mean, it can be a lot of fun. I mean, he again too. He's really a visual person, so he knows what he wants to see. He knows when things aren't right. I mean, I know that Legacy Effects is the company that built all this stuff for the show, and I was hired by them to oversee the prosthetics part. And I think at one point he wanted to see something for Mantis, and then when we actually like kind of did it, you know, Photoshop drawings or 3D, you know, then he was like, oh, okay, maybe not. And then, you know, but they ended up doing so many designs just to like prepare to just get ready to show them. And so many designs with like how her face was and coloring and hair. And then
it's the George Lucas effect. It's carrying on the James Gunn.
Yeah. But when it came down to it, he was like, no, this one, and that one. Okay, there you go. You know,
well, at least he knows what he likes, and he likes what he
does. Yeah. And you know, he's having fun. So
yeah, because I know they're currently shooting or almost about ready to wrap Volume 3.
Right.
I know that thing was delayed left and right, so maybe that's why you probably didn't end up working on that one, because you know you got to move on while Marvel was delaying that. But
yeah. So it was yeah, because that was supposed to happen
years ago at this point.
Years ago. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let's kind of rewind a little bit. We kind of got into what you're doing, and let's kind of find out how you got there. I mean, how do you go from, you know, watching Star Wars at 11 years old to working on The Mandalorian, and not just working on The Mandalorian, winning Emmys for your work on The Mandalorian? I just want to remind everyone, Brian is a 2-time Emmy Award winner and a Saturn Award winner, and one of his
Saturn Award. The Saturn is funny because
it's for geeky
stuff.
About
it later.
Yeah,
I read about it later that we won, and I'm just like, was I supposed to be there? Nobody even notified.
Who accepted this award?
They didn't even call him.
Yeah, myself and John Blake, I think we had won because he ran the regular department makeup, and I was like, hey, did you know that we won? He's like, no, what does that mean? and then I like tried getting a hold of them one time. It was just like, were we supposed to be there? Am I supposed to get one of those little awards? Because I haven't seen anything.
An intern forgot to send the invite. I mean, I always thought Saturns were big for like sci-fi productions.
I know. I would love to have that little thing. I don't know where it's at.
We'll start a GoFundMe. We'll get Brian his trophy. But no, I mean, how do you go from, you know, just living in Oregon to now almost 30 years later working in some of the biggest and baddest movies and TV shows in Hollywood?
You know, I think it just, you know, followed the dream. I think it actually was the 1981 remake of The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, that really piqued my interest into this. I saw, you know, that was the heyday of videotapes, and you know, we'd go to the video house and I'd rent that movie, and you know, I'd hang on to it and get the overdue fees because I'd be watching it over and over and over again. And I think I'd watched it so many times. My dad was aware that I had seen it so many times. He traveled for work, and he was going through an airport, and at one of the bookstores saw the Cinema Fantastique issue with Rob Bottin on the cover and like the crab head. And he knew that was from the movie, so he picked it up for me. And that issue, like,
that was it.
Blew me away. That was it, because it had a bunch of stuff in there. It had like these in the Thing article. It had like these little Mike Ploog drawings of like, you know, these are the guys like, you know, controlling the levers or like doing something. I mean, they're like really kind of silly, but it was like, that was the moment that I thought, oh, this is a job. Somebody can do this. And that's when I started really kind of seeking it out, getting the Cinefex magazines, getting Fangoria, and then, you know, buying materials and sculpting. One of my first, crummy sculptures was on just like a wig head. And it's really...
I imagine it's a unique hobby to get into, because it's not like, we've talked to concept artists before, and it's like, okay, I get that. They know they can draw, and then they get better and better, and that leads into a role. But I would think with makeup, special effects, that it's really nothing you can sit there and just, I guess you can practice, but it's not as, I guess, easy and obtainable to start practicing in makeup special effects, is it? Or
yeah,
I bet you're popular in your neighborhood around Halloween, probably at some point in time, right?
It was difficult. Actually, you know what? I'm just noticing, like, it's getting really dark outside. Am I getting?
You're fine. It actually adds a little bit of a moody tone to it.
Like industry.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. As this goes on, it gets darker and darker. It's just dark as my soul. Because in Hillsboro, Oregon, where I grew up, trying to find the materials that I needed.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. It just doesn't seem as accessible.
Yeah. I go to the local theater store, and I could get latex, I could get some clay from an art store, I could get certain things. I actually was resourceful enough. I found through the Yellow Pages. If anybody remembers what those were.
Phone books for you young people. We won't even get into it. Don't worry.
They found like a dental supply house that was around my place, so that I could buy the alginate and teeth trays so that I could cast my teeth.
Brilliant. Okay.
And then I found a place that had, that I used that same alginate, which was the wrong kind because it was so fast. But I found another place that had plaster bandages. And, I think it was 17. And made it, was able to make it happen. I would, grab my friends and, terrified friends as I'm trying to, covering their face, trying to get a life cast.
Hey, let me do something to you. It's kind of like waterboarding.
Yeah. Still, don't worry.
How were your parents? Did your parents help you find stuff, and they helped you along the way? Were they super supportive? Because it seems like an out there career. Like, if I went to my parents, I know if I said I'm going to be a makeup artist on a movie, they're like, have you thought this through yet? Are you sure? How were they?
You know what? I think they were pretty open to it. I mean, my dad, I think he would have liked that I, spun off into the computer world, because that's where he was from. And he was just kind of like, this is what's going to be important in the future, and
well, he wasn't wrong, but it's still way more boring than what you're doing now.
Yeah, exactly. But they were, like I said, my dad picked up that magazine for me. I think my mom might have went to some some toy store, and she saw the Pressman kit of the Dick Smith makeup kit, and grabbed that for me. And that was one where you'd mix up. It came with very rudimentary molds, vacuum molds, gelatin. And, you'd make these pieces and color them and, kind of apply them. And so, I was able to do that. I remember one time I was mixing the stuff up in the kitchen, and I had a glass, and when you're making gelatin, you use glycerin and sorbitol and make the stuff so it makes it soft and fleshy. And I had a glass that I put it in. And of course, they're just clear liquids. And I think it was the glycerin. And my mom she thought it was water. She wet.
Oh, no.
Just started drinking.
Oh, no.
It spit it out.
Hopefully she's all right. We didn't have to make a trip to the emergency room or call Mr. Yuck or anything. Yeah. I hope not.
No.
Dangers of the job. Always check your cups.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh boy. So, all right. So, you're dabbling in it. You're studying, getting the magazines, getting some materials. How do you end up getting paid for it? How does Brian go from dabbling to working on what, in my opinion, could be one of your best credits, Cannibal Hookers?
Cannibal Hookers.
Is that your first? Do you count that as your first big credit, or no?
I count that as my first credit. First thing I did was, I think at 19, decided that I wasn't going to be able to do this in Hillsboro, so I think in the back of Fangoria, there was a small little ad in the classifieds for a new makeup school that was opening up. Called. I think I was the very first person to call, or at least I know I was the first person to sign up. And then that was it. It's like, okay, yep, classes start in January, and January, February. So I packed up my Chevy Sprint, 3-cylinder Chevy.
So are you still, because this seems to be similar, I know some stunt people, we've talked to concept artists, storyboarders, and it sounds like once you kind of meet a clique out there, or someone pulls you into a production, you tend to stick with them if they're good people, and you'll pull each other throughout your careers onto other productions, bigger productions, and then ultimately, you get to where you're at now. Is that kind of how things played out for you? Did you meet some people and?
To say work with, or like we, a bunch of us, we all rented a house, and actually from makeup school to the studios, I took a detour to a company called Dynamation, and we used to make life-size animatronic robot dinosaurs for museums and whatever. And a bunch of us were there. At one point, we all just kind of like, wait a minute, we didn't come here to be, do dinosaurs. We wanted to do movies, and then we all kind of moved up to Hollywood. But there, that is, yeah, you find a clique, you find people that you work well with. Because you're never really an island, in that game. There's a whole team of people. Sometimes. I think I was like one of the last waves that kind of went through the schools, where I kind of know a little bit about everything, know a little bit about all the steps. Some people now, when they kind of go through makeup school, they learn it, but then they just want to focus on something, or they just want to do, they kind of
specialize or silo themselves.
Yeah, specialize, compartmentalize. And if you work in the shops, you do get compartmentalized, unless you really flex your muscles and, really show that you can just do it all from, beginning to end.
All right, Nick is not being rude. His Skype has dropped out, but we kind of planned for this. That's why I wish you could see the feed right now, because I've just replaced his frozen face with our logo. So that's why it's all right. We kind of had an idea this may happen. So it's just you and I from here on out, which, it's better anyways. All right, so we get to Cannibal Hookers, and like you said, you meet some people, and you eventually start getting bigger and better gigs. What do you, I guess to you, when do you feel like I made it? Like, this is it. This is the production where you finally feel like, okay, now I'm in the big leagues.
Well, I guess that would probably be my first full film. There was a time when I was working at that dinosaur company, Bill Barsdorf, he was one of the guys who lived there. He ended up moving up to LA because he was like, I'm out. I want to go do that stuff. He was working, and he was the the mechanical puppet guy for Steve Johnson at XFX, and I would go up on, this was back, it was lawless. Everybody's working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and so I would
no labor laws back then.
No, we had kids. No, there was I would go up on weekends and just with him, hang out with him, work for free. And at that time, just because that's like, hey, that's really what it is. It's just like getting your face, getting to a place where you can just show these people what you can do. And at that time, Steve was one of my, I was a big fan of Steve. He, was a part of the Rick Baker crew kind of coming up, and then he ran Boss Films makeup department. Some of his designs and designs are very they're out there. Very cool, and I always kind of liked that aesthetic. So I was lucky enough to get in there, and a few weekends of working for free, and then I think there was an episode of Monsters that came through, and he's like, "Well, hey, do you want to just do this effect?" And again, I was just doing weekends, and so I worked on this thing, and it's funny because I think I found it on, I found this behind the scenes thing on YouTube, and you see me back in 1988 doing this thing, and it's yeah.
Oh, so someone's got you on, like, an old clip of you on YouTube somewhere? We'll have to find that.
Yeah. But I know the internet never forgets.
No, it does not.
But after doing a few weekends of that, we were eating lunch one day, and he just kind of looked, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing? You going to stay down there doing dinosaurs? You going to come up here?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. You got a job?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, I got something coming through. Have you ever run foam latex before?" And I'm like, "Nope." And he's like, I'll go pull a bunch of my molds. I'll get a 5-gallon kit of foam latex.
Figure it out.
Let's see what you can do. And that's what I did. And that was a Highway to Hell. Chad Lowe, Christy Swanson. Yeah.
There it is right there. I mean, you have so many credits on your website. It took me almost 3 minutes to scroll down to the bottom to find Highway to Hell right after Kung Fu Kitchen.
Yeah, yeah.
Now there's some classic Suburban Commando. You gotta love that with the Hulk. I mean, Sleepwalkers, Pet Cemetery too. Just like I said at the onset of the show here. I mean, Brian Sipe has quite the resume as I scroll through it here. All right, so
I've been fortunate.
Yeah. And these days, Brian, are you hired as Brian Sipe the individual or Gamut Studios when you're brought onto a project?
It depends. For quite a few years there, say from Twilight to what was the last one? Suicide Squad. I was representing Legacy Effects, which was the the 4 owners from Legacy Effects.
Okay.
They were the supervisors from the Stan Winston studios. So they were Stan's lead guys. And when Stan passed away, they kind of just reformed a company called Legacy Effects, and they're big powerhouse makeup effects. And
so they just like contract you out like a 1099, or do you become a Legacy employee?
I come on. They want to, I come on and I'll be in the shop to help supervise the build, make sure things are going in a direction that will, suit us, suit the characters, suit the speeds, suit the time on set, and then transition to go to set and run the department there.
So are you all with the makeup department, makeup artists, or would you be similar to like a stunt person that you have a daily rate, or do you get, is it like a contract, just like a lump sum, and then you divvy it up how you see fit?
No, it's all like, everybody's, daily,
they
hourly,
okay. All right. Yeah.
Employee. And then,
Yeah, so even if you're there for 15 minutes, you still make the full day rate and stuff like
Sure.
that is one of the bonuses of Hollywood. I've been on a set before, and I can tell you it is, if you're not doing anything, it is one of the most boring things you can ever be a part of. Like it's so boring. I wanted to like jump out of the window. But
sometimes it can be. I mean, I guess it will depend upon the project you're on, but there's
so much downtime.
There's a marathon sprint.
Yeah.
There's a huge sprint in the morning. The first 4 hours are like super tough, and then depending upon the show, then you'll go to set and you'll watch your person, and hopefully if you've done your job right, you don't really have to touch them at all.
Right.
And then just
so as a makeup artist, I mean, you're probably involved from the beginning, like pre-production all the way through principal, right? Because you have to be there every day. Either in the morning to get them ready, and then like you said, when they're actually shooting, you have to be out on the stage or the set to help if anything gets jacked up during the shoot.
Yep. Just make sure their lipstick's on, or make sure that they like the makeup around their eyes are good, or they've gone back to the trailer and had a big hamburger. Gotta make sure that everything's all touched up.
Yeah, so that
Chinese chicken salad, really greasy. Yeah,
that's. I'm trying to think. It probably is one of the jobs on a production where you truly are there from pre through principal. You know, because the artists, they're kind of done after pre-production. The actors, they really only come in during principal for the most part. But yeah, I mean, if you think about makeup, hair, whatever, well, makeup for sure, you're there the entire time. So sometimes I bet these productions of movie can eat up what 2, 3, 4 months of a year for you.
Oh, more than that. I mean, because that usually like 3 months might be 3 to 4 months might be the typical principal photography time.
Yeah.
And if we're lucky, on some of those, like on the Marvel films, you know, we might be brought in maybe 2 to 3 months in advance. You know, but they might have been going even before that, you know, because, you know, like their production designers are designing the costume. The costume, I think, department is like one of the first ones to come in. And depending upon the show, they'll reach out to makeup first. I mean, if it's a real heavy makeup show, then obviously we get pulled in early.
Well, yeah, with
if it's just for like a couple of small
with Infinity War
and a couple of small things, then you know. Oh yeah, Infinity War
and Endgame, you're probably locked up for what, 2 years? Yeah.
For all those movies, yeah, it was just nonstop, nonstop Marvel.
Oh yeah, I mean, because you probably went from Guardians to Infinity to Endgame.
I went from Guardians
to Captain Marvel,
back to X-Men. No, I mean, I would bounce back and forth. It was all Marvel, but I mean, there to X-Men, back to something, and then Captain Marvel, and then it was
many years spent in the MCU, and I'm sure you're not done, but I don't know. I'm not going to ask you about any secret projects or anything like that.
No.
I don't want to get anyone in trouble. Do you? Is there a particular makeup artist or maybe a film itself that you kind of look to as a big influence to your own work and career?
Steve Johnson was somebody that I looked at, and I was lucky enough to have him, I guess, mentor me through my first films, whether that was a good thing or not. I mean, because he's got a book out there, I think, called Rubberhead. He's got a couple of them. He's kind of chronicling his life in the business, and he's like shoveling and unleashing dirt that like. But it was. He was hard, he was one of those guys that he would be like, you do something and you think it was really good. You're like, look at this, isn't this great? And he's like, yeah, that's really good. Do it again because it's not quite right. And you're like, what's wrong? And he's like, no, I don't know. Just you gotta make it happen faster. You gotta make it better. It's not, not punchy enough. It's not, the shapes aren't quite there. So and that was after hour 16.
Boy. Yeah, I bet you just sat there smiling, like with your teeth clenched, like, okay, you bet. I'll get right to it. Would he ever come in, like start ripping pieces off? Like, would he start, like, this isn't good, that's not good? Got a little bit of delay here with Brian. Man, Skype is no good these days. You're back.
Sorry?
I said, you're back. I was just saying we had a little bit of a freeze up with Brian there. I was blaming it on Skype. So, what I was saying, would he ever come in and actually start physically pulling apart some of your makeup? Like, that's not good. The brow's off. This is bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, even just here, let me do it. And he said, obviously, you sit down and like start reworking a sculpture or something like that. And I mean, you can't be mad because, then you get to sit there and watch him work.
Right.
And I mean, that's how you learn, it's like, I was fortunate to be around a lot of talented people and just, I would hover and just watch and watch and watch and then like go home and practice and try and do that, mimic. I mean, Rob Bottin was another person that, he did the effects for The Thing. So I think that, as far as like a movie or something, The Thing was very influential. And then then he went on to do Legend, which, his design aesthetic is, push and pull shapes, a lot of nice hard colors. And,
did he do the devil in that then? Was he the guy that, Yeah.
I
don't know how many people, hopefully people listening, Legend is a lot of people probably don't even know about it, but it's an early Tom Cruise movie that's kind of like fantasy far out. Yeah, I mean it's a from what I remember, kind of a far out type of flick. At least at the age I was watching it at, probably too young.
Ridley Scott directed it, and it's just very ethereal. It's very just sing song wispy, and it's such a beautiful movie.
Yeah, that devil's just so music. Iconic. Like I even to this day, I probably haven't seen the movie in over 20 years, and that the devil makeup, like that is the devil
Tim
to
Curry.
me. Yeah. Tim Curry that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Watch it again, and I mean, there's some things that you can watch, that you remember, and that was the most amazing thing ever. And then you can watch it now, and you go, oh, okay, well, maybe it wasn't that great, or but everything in that movie, and darkness was the name of the devil, and you're just like, wow. It's so simple. It was so simple. It's not overworked. It's not overly crazy with, 2,400 layers of color and squiggly lines. It's just beautifully, just perfect.
All right, so it is The Mandalorian. Was that your first foray into Star Wars, or did you have any sort of like tangential connections to it before you got the Mandalorian gig?
Oh boy, I don't remember anything earlier. I'm sure there might have been, but it might just be like a commercial or something like that. But as far as like a something being filmed story-wise, Mandalorian was, I believe, my first foot into the Star Wars world.
So how did you get that one? Was it just a previous connection, or were you sending in your work like a portfolio? I don't know if you'd have to do that anymore. I'm sure you just kind of get called and show up. But
I think I just finished a film. I can't remember which one, but I was over at Legacy Effects. John Rosengrant, one of the owners, came through. He saw me there and was just like, "Hey, if we're talking to this one show, we're just wondering if you would be interested in again taking our stuff to set." And I just said, "Well, it's a TV show. I mean, have they hired the makeup department head yet?" And he said, "I don't think so. It's still pretty early." And I said, "Well, can you get me an interview with the producers?" And he did, and I went down and was able to get hired on as this, like, the department head, for the makeup, because it was, I mean, even though specialty makeup has been, my lead right hand, it's we all get trained to do everything. So, it's like I can do beauty.
Right.
I'm not going to claim that as my, as what I do best, but we do it. And design, is something that, I can do well, or at least envision. I'm a great manager, manage people well. So, when I went down to meet Colin Wilson, who was the executive producer, Paige, there was another producer there, Paige, and I had known her from Infinity War because she was overseeing the VFX unit.
Friendly
so
face.
Like, oh, you? Okay, yeah, this guy's great. And so, they gave me the shot.
Is that kind of how the interview goes then? Like, hey, I remember him. He's good. All right, you got it.
yeah.
That is a thing of beauty.
Luckily,
yeah.
And I'm sure, and with Legacy Effects, Rosengrant, vouching for me, that's a good, that's a huge nudge too. And, but yeah, so then it was, okay, this is what we're doing. This is about, and like, yep, I'm in. You don't have to tell me the rest. Just,
So, yeah. So I'm guessing this probably would have been what, like 2017, 2018 ish time frame.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause season 1 went live October of 2019. So.
Yeah. So it was the year before. So it was 2018. And then.
So at that meeting, did they pitch kind of the overall story to you, or did they just show you some concept art? I mean, did you know about Baby Yoda at that first meeting? Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
So you're good at keeping a secret.
You know what? I gotta say, we were all good at keeping secrets for season 1 and 2. I mean, come on, end of season 2 was.
None of us. I remember on this dumb little show, I was like, they will never bring back a legacy character like Luke Skywalker to a show like this because they don't need to. And I was like, I will slap myself if they do it. And sure enough, I had to slap myself. So,
but I mean, like how amazing was that moment?
It was. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I teared up as a lifelong fan. I mean, it was very emotional. I'm not even when R2 rolled in the frame, it hit me again. It was like a double gut punch. Yeah. And then they end it with Din saying goodbye to the baby. Times. Yeah. So, were you there that day? Did you?
I get emotional every time because it is, you know, it's such a huge thing, an iconic thing. And then I think when I was watching it, I stayed up, you know, when it airs, it'll be after midnight, you know, when we watch it. If you want to watch the first showing, and I stayed up, and you know, it was amazing. And I remember just thinking too, is that like, how many millions of people are doing the exact same thing right now?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was like balled up down in my basement, like, oh, life is so good right now. I love being a Star Wars fan. Thank you, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni and everyone involved. Yeah, no, it is fantastic. So
smart though. It's just smart.
No, in the end, it made sense, and I kind of like what they did, continuing it in the Book of Boba Fett, which you also worked on. Mm-hmm. So. What would you say was, when you worked on Star Wars, The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, what would you consider your most challenging job or task? Was there like a challenge? I mean, I know you won the Emmy for Ahsoka. Was that kind of the most difficult?
There was one of them. I mean, you know, going at that show and that makeup, that season, doing Boba Fett. I mean, two characters that in the universe are huge.
Icons, for sure.
Like Ahsoka's Star Wars sweetheart. I mean, you know, it's just like that. If nothing else, it was just the pressure of, you know, trying to create something that looked good and then satisfied the fans. Because the fans can be gnarly.
You know what? I want to ask you, Brian. I was going to bring it up, but since you mentioned it, as someone that was involved in Ahsoka and in other, you know, Star Wars stuff and other characters that are non-Star Wars, when fans start getting chirpy and talking like they could have done a better job and who's making these decisions, what type of effect does that have on artists like you? Are you just like, they're just fans, they don't know, or does it bum you out a little bit? Because with Ahsoka, I mean, there were fans like, her neck thing or her tails aren't long enough. You know, it's like. Right.
I'll go into that.
Okay, thank you.
There was you know what I mean, everything. I mean, you know, like even right before going into Star Wars and Guardians, you know, working on X-Men Apocalypse. You know, as you know, like, you know, Apocalypse looked nothing like how he was.
He's not drawn. Tall enough.
Yeah, there's that. Which, you know, and but I mean, it can affect you. I mean, I remember like the day, you know, because there was like a leak, like there was like one of the photos that like got out was of him on set, and it was supposed to be like when he like just appeared. Oops, I think I'm out of.
He'll be back. Brian, when Brian's Skype drops out, it's not as bad as there he is.
There we go.
It's all right. I just had to put quarters into the machine, so we're good now. We'll be good for another 10 minutes.
The Apocalypse. I mean, you know, there was a shot that had gone out, a picture that got posted or entertainment, who knows where, but it was him with Storm, and they were projecting this purple light on him because that was going to be the energy ball that brought him in, you know, and that was a picture that was taken and then got circulated. So then it just looked like he was like this weird purple thing, and everybody was calling him, you know, something. I can't remember the character, something Ooze from Power Rangers, and you know, it was, you know, and of course, like, you know, he's seeing this stuff too, you know, Oscar, and so then he's like, oh, you know, like, you know, fucks with everybody's head.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I've been raked through the coals quite a few times with characters like that, because he's like, yeah, it's never going to be right. So going into doing, you know, Ahsoka and Boba Fett for that season, you know, that was the the stress and the pressure that was on my shoulders. I felt, because it's like, this is, the Star Wars fans are mighty. They're mighty, and there's many, and
some of the worst, in my opinion. I love Star Wars. I love a lot of the fans, but boy, do we have some divas over here that nothing's ever good enough because they have their own, as we call it, the head canon going on. Like, no, if I didn't do it, it's not good enough. But
but the one thing that they don't understand either is that they don't, that we come back from it. Because at a point, say for Apocalypse, it's like, we're employees. So if Bryan Singer or the direct producer or somebody, George Lucas, comes in and goes, you know what? I want a big purple dot in the middle of the forehead.
That's what you do.
That's what you do. Or you don't, and you quit. It's just like, that's, it's like, no, my standards, I would never do that.
Right.
You walk away, or you just go, okay, yeah, sure. We'll color purple,
Have you ever seen someone quit over a disagreement in design?
No. Because we're all, I don't think so.
You would be blackballed. I would. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There are some people who will get very adamant about it.
But they usually lose, right? It's...
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's like, well, then, I will find somebody who will do that.
I love it.
So, but for Ahsoka, that was a hard one. Because also, Dave Filoni is one of the creatives on the show, and that's one of his babies, and so very specific. And it's like I would, we brought in like a body double, and then I would do tests on this body double before we got to Rosario to try and create the skin tone, or to create, the right, the shapes for, the stripes on her face.
Right.
It was tough, because that color, it goes George Hamilton really fast, or it goes Oompa Loompa, and you have to, or it just goes cosplay.
Yeah. That's a very interesting point. For the younger fans that don't know, just Google George Hamilton. That was a great reference. He essentially lived in a tanning bed. He looked like a lizard. But you're right. It's kind of got to be a balance between him and an Oompa Loompa, but not into fan cosplay level. Yeah.
So that was, that was the big part. Luckily, I had a whole bunch of makeup supplies at my disposal. So, and you just try different things. And the big thing that I found out was, I think that made it most real for me, was to make it as sheer as possible. I wanted to see some of Rosario's, make sure we saw her freckles, saw anything that she had going on in her skin, because then it created a sense of reality. If you put, if it was, the makeup was too thick, is when it would go cosplay or Lupa. And Ben Nye, the Ben Nye company, supplied us with a whole bunch of colors, and I would went through their. I took this color, mixed this one, and a quarter cake of this, and came up with the tone that that was chosen. And it's funny because like the producer on the show, I think before that one came out, a few days before, he was like, have you ever been on, checked out Google and, like after the shows come out?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Type in the thing just to see what the people are saying.
No.
Ever have. I'm like, nope, I haven't even thought about it. And of course, like right after that is when the Ahsoka episode came out. And so I did. And because I was, I was very nervous about it, just to see what was going to be said.
Okay, and so were your nerves coming from like just the overall look, or the things that the fans latched on, the head tails, or was it just?
The overall look, know, because it's. When we got to shooting, at that point, I was happy with it because I knew that, Filoni was happy with it, Favreau was happy with it, and it was working. And Dave was, very happy with it from what I remember. He would just sit there and stare at her, because it's like, oh, there she is.
Yeah, he drew her, and now it's a living, breathing character.
Yeah, and he talks about that in the gallery. When he talks about season 2, but. Again, it was just, just to see like what was going to come down, what kind of coal and raking it was going to happen, for this character. And, luckily, it was all good.
Yeah, I think for the most part, people.
For the most part, I mean, everybody was very happy with it, other than like the Ashley thing or the head tails. Like the head tails was some guy directly DM'd me into Instagram, and it was just like, "You ruined."
Oh my goodness!
And then
block.
They, talked about the head tails and everything, and I just said, "Well, look, it's like you have to think about the reality of things. It's just like if you were going to have Ahsoka's head tails." I mean, which ones are you going to do? I mean, you look at the show and they went, they got huge
almost down to her waist by the time she was in Star Wars Rebels, I think. So,
and that would be, as is, it's, 3, 4, 5 pounds on her head. That's kind of up. And then, you do like the other ones that would have been, 20 pounds sitting on her head and like kind of dragging it back. And then there's stunts and spinning and
right. I mean, she's a pretty active character. She's not just sitting still or being static on screen. I mean, she's quite like a gymnast
very
almost.
Mobile, very mobile. And I mean that was and the team, the creatives, they really liked the idea of the practical stuff. So they didn't want to do CG head tails. They didn't want to they wanted to keep it practical. So that was like the thing, was to kind of keep it to a place that would still. I mean, Scott Patton at Legacy Effects, he was, manning the ZBrush when, I think when Filoni was coming in, and they came to the place where like, and for me, it's like, well, it wasn't my choice. I mean, it was the creator. The creator who sat there and helped design it, and
that's kind of what I say. It's like everyone calm down. I mean, the people that created these people, they're the ones making the decisions. It's not like they're just closing their eyes and spitballing, just shorten the necktails. They'll piss them off.
Whatever I want to do.
There's probably logical reasons why some of these cartoon characters look slightly different in live action than.
Yeah, or just in anything, Oops.
Well, we're gonna have our little pause here. Let him get a drink. He'll be back. This has been fun so far. Hopefully, you and the live stream are enjoying our talk with Brian Sipe.
Yep.
Emmy award-winning makeup art. It's all right. I give you some plugs. Why I just tell them you're getting a drink. So.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, because it's hard because oftentimes an animated character is gonna does not have the features of a human, like Ahsoka's eyes are so big. But and there's things you can do in animation that you can't do in humans, non-humans. But
I don't know how deep you're into the Star Wars world these days, but there's a big hubbub already about the Kenobi series, and they have a character called the Grand Inquisitor, and the fans don't like that his head isn't egg shaped and his eyes aren't yellow. So that they're already getting their teeth kicked in before the series even has premiered. So it's just par for the course with Star Wars, unfortunately.
I know, but it's like, I don't know. It is a kind of thing where it's just like, just relax, watch the show, because if they do it right, like The Mandalorian, I think has been. I mean, the storylines just pull you in. They pull.
Correct.
I mean, they're more Star Wars than some of the last films. I mean,
agreed. I mean, I've always said I could watch Star Wars with stick figures as long as the story is good. I mean, that's my draw to the franchise. I like the story. I like the family stuff and the duality of the films with each other. So I get you. Well, thanks for clearing that up, because I've been preaching that from up on high here, and everyone tells me I'm an asshole. So
no. But I mean, there's the thing. I mean, it changes everywhere. When you go back to X-Men. I remember when that whole picture came out with Oscar Isaac in the purple light, and I remember Singer was telling him, he goes like, look, he goes, just relax, don't worry about it. He goes, when people see this is when they'll get it. It's just like Mystique. When you look at Mystique, and she's not drawn like the Rebecca, like the Mystique we know of today. Like, she didn't have scales or any of that stuff.
Right.
I mean, she was like blue with like a white outfit and red hair and like bewitched red hair, and and he was like, he goes, I got so much crap. Singer was saying, I got so much crap for hiring Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, because Wolverine's supposed to be like 5 feet tall, and he goes, but at this point in time, who would you see in that role?
Yeah,
other than Hugh, you know.
And he was right. I mean, I think Hugh's doing like a Broadway show right now, and he still has fans going to that, doing the claw gesture to him to get him to do like the flex, and he'll do it on stage, like at the end when they're all coming out for their claps and bows, and like he'll still get out there
or something like that. He's doing Oklahoma wearing the claws.
No, I mean, it all works out in the end. But yeah, you've gotten to work with Jennifer Lawrence in the X-Men movies, right? Doing like personally putting on the makeup or just supervising that.
Yeah, no, putting it on every day. Every day.
Is she just as beautiful in person as she is on screen?
Yeah. I mean, she's just a beautiful person too. Right. I mean, she's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
she kept us on our toes, but she's a lot of fun.
I mean, you don't have to name names, but I'm sure you have some actors that you might have had a lesser opinion of them after making them sit in a makeup chair for hours on end for months on end, right?
Yeah, it's hard because you kind of like at a point you're just kind of like, you read the script, right? You're supposed to be this, right?
Yeah.
Did you not know that? So,
you're getting paid a ton of money to put on some makeup and act. So,
but a lot of people, that's just, but luckily it's usually pretty few. There have been a handful, but for the most part, a lot of them, everybody's just like, no, this is what's going to get me there. I mean, if what I do and my teams or anything like that, if we do it right, I mean, we're seamless to where the person doesn't think or feel
right,
but they know that they look like this. They know that they're now the character. And we're like wardrobe, really. I mean, it's just like put on the right jacket and you're the Fonz. It depends upon how good we do and how comfortable we make them feel.
Do you have a favorite that you've worked with that's just been a peach every time you've worked with them? Even again, you've made them sit in a chair for hours on end.
Yeah, I mean Dave Bautista. He's a great guy. I mean, Drax is a fun character. He was really happy with what we did because we took I think David's white team, when they first designed Drax, it was all silicone pieces that would get glued to him, and it, I think, started out at a 5-hour makeup, and they kind of went somewhere between 4 and 3.5 hours or something like that. I don't know how many people. And then I took it, flipped it, just redesigned it to almost doing it backwards from what they did with a different prosthetic. And we got it down to about, our fastest day was 68 minutes.
Ooh, not bad.
So, and our typical was about 75. Under an hour and a half, and which, I mean, that's a few extra hours sleep for him, and he was always pretty happy about that.
He seems like just a genuinely good dude. I mean, obviously I don't know him for shit, but just I don't know, from hear him just speaking publicly and then seeing his roles and how he acts, I dig him. I think he's one of the best wrestler crossovers to actors in recent memory.
No, you know what, and genuinely good human. He's a good human, and he's very respectful of the process and the aspects of movie making, and not weird. I mean, we go out, we go get a burger, and people would approach him all the time, and he was always
cool,
happy to take pictures, happy to sign anything, and just kind of never too guarded, and so it was nice. I mean, he respected the fans, because if there aren't the fans, there's not the job.
Exactly. So, I think sometimes they forget that they kind of need the people.
Yeah. Jen's another good person too. I mean, Jen was fun. Again, a handful, but she was fun.
Did you did you have to apply Rosario's makeup for Ahsoka?
Yeah. She's I've been pretty lucky to worked on the the cast of characters that I've been able to do, and a lot of great people in there. A lot of great people.
I got to ask, so one more, maybe two more people. Tamara Morrison, how's that guy in person? Yeah,
he's very, he can be zen in his own Maori way, and it's just good. Just again, I mean, I'm so blessed to have worked with a lot of just
I'd like to see him
people.
work, because he seems like he gets very intense and into that character of Boba, especially during the action scenes and when he had the gaffy stick and
yeah.
I mean that scene from
he just flips it on. So
the scene from Book of Boba, I think it was the end of episode 2 when he does the tribal dance with the Tusken Raiders. Could be one of my all-time favorite Star Wars moments at this point in time. Just the moment itself for the character, but watching Tem, you could see him. I mean, he was being a Maori warrior there. I mean, he was getting into it with everyone and
Definitely
stepping in, and jabbing that stick up. I mean, it was motivational watching it for the first time. And the other one, Schwarzenegger. Did you put the makeup on him then for Terminators?
Yep.
How's he? Is he kind of the big personality in real life?
Good, a good guy, kind of comes in, just, he's like, right, let's do this. And he knows his place, and it's funny. It's funny. Like the only time that you'd see him get kind of, pushback would be like I remember one time one of the stunt guys came in and he was like, okay, we're going to go out and we're going to rehearse this, the scene, because Jason's going to come in, he's going to grab you, and he's going to push you, and you're going to block and do this. He's like, why would I do that? Why would I block? I'm not going to block anything. I'm the Terminator. Just go forward, and you can't stop. Why am I going to? I'm not going to do any of that.
I love it.
But then he's right. It's just like, why are you going to get into just one of these fight scene? And it's like, you
I'm not going to do it. Yeah.
So I don't get hurt. Why am I going to do that?
I love it. That's a great story. Thank you. So do you have, I'm going to let you go here soon because you've already given me over an hour, Brian. It's been a pleasure talking with you. But
really already? Okay.
Yeah. A few more questions though before I let you go and figure out where my co-host disappeared into the ether. But do you have at this point in your career just a personal favorite, either job or character that you've worked on?
I mean, that's a hard one. I think because I've had the opportunity and been so fortunate to have worked on a whole bunch, or around a whole bunch, and all the ones, from Mystique to Drax to Ahsoka, Boba Fett, even to me and the team, we did like the Bib Fortuna. I mean, there's so many like cool things in Star Wars and all the other movies that I've been able to do. It's pretty cool. It's hard to pin down one.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, your credits are ridiculously long, so I could see how it could be tough to pick just one. Because you've been on some of the biggest and baddest pop culture franchises out there, like we said at the top. I mean, X-Men, the MCU, Star Wars, Terminator, Star Trek, just an amazing career, and it's still going, which is fantastic. I mean, I would. Again, I don't want to, I know you can't say much, but there's word on the street that the Ahsoka series might start filming soon. I don't know if you might be working on that or.
I don't know. I don't believe so. I've got a couple other things that I'm probably going to jump into, and
got you.
But yeah.
You excited for the Kenobi series at all, or you do not really get into?
You know what? I'm excited to see it. We'll have to see how it goes. I mean, the interesting thing is, like Deb Chow's over there. She directed it, so I think she's really good. But we'll have to see, because I know that I don't believe Favreau and Filoni really had much a hand in it. So it was kind of like Kathleen doing her thing, and I think those two guys are what's breathing the life back into it, and hopefully they took a page out of what they're doing and follow suit instead of kind of going in their own direction,
right?
Because I think they've grabbed the wrist of the fans and the non-fans, and I think they're feeling the pulse, and they got it. They just got it.
How do those two work together on set? I mean, is John the true lead, since he is technically the creator, and Dave's just kind of there to make sure that the lore checks out with what George Lucas would have wanted? Is that kind of how that plays out?
There's a lot of that, and they just they refer to each other.
Right.
because I think, I mean, Dave is the walking encyclopedia. You could ask him anything, and he'll deep dive into it, and just it's neat having conversations with him. But John knows the direction that this is going.
I've tried to explain, because I understand why fans do this, and I've probably said it myself, but a lot of people consider Dave Filoni to be Star Wars Jesus at this point in time.
Yeah.
And that's because of his past connections to George himself, the Clone Wars, Rebels, so on and so forth. But it is, John is the one that created the Mandoverse at this point in time, as it has expanded beyond just the Mandalorian with the Book of Boba Fett and ultimately Ahsoka. But John is the one that is kind of driving the narrative then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's what happens when you pair two gentlemen like that together. Because I'm with you. I really do feel like they've really figured out something special with the Mandalorian and the spin-offs that are happening. And as you said, it has not only kind of captured the attention of us fanboys and girls, but it's brought in the casuals and the non-fans.
Yeah. And I think that they're just, they're a good dynamic duo. And I think both of them, because I feel that that they're also just both fans.
Yeah.
At heart. They watched it all too. They grew up with it all too, and I think it's just something that they want to make sure that they show proper. Make sure that it's. And that it makes everybody proud.
And so far, so good. Unless your name is Robert Rodriguez, because fans really teed off on him for some of the Book of Boba Fett stuff. I'm like, listen, John still wrote the damn story, people. Robert directed. He brought a vision to life. But the Vespas, and there were even Power Rangers comparisons in Book of Boba Fett, just like you were getting for Apocalypse.
Yep. He got it there. So,
but that poor guy. I don't know if he'll ever want to touch Star Wars again after the Book of Boba Fett. But I quite enjoyed it. But I said, I like story. I don't get so concerned on Technicolor scooters and stuff like that. So I'm good.
Yeah, and I liked the art. Seeing I know that there's some complaints for Boba Fett's arc. And he should be more of a badass.
Nah.
But it's like, but I think that's what they were trying to show. That was like the importance of this, being with the Sand People, and seeing.
He's a real character now. He's not just a background guy that stands there and looks cool. He actually has motivations that, we can kind of latch onto.
And I think they wanted to make him, likable in that way, as kind of like a, light anti-hero, and, I think, but it's fun that, every once in a while, he would go back into his moments, when he's like strafing the
one of the best scenes of the series when he's blowing the Nikto gang to bits, and
then like when the assassins were like climbing on, he's just blows.
Shoot. One rocket, one man. That's Boba Fett's philosophy. Hey, by the end of the series, he was like, you know what? This is kind of boring. Let's go back and do our thing anyway. So maybe when we see him again, he'll be out killing people like people wanted him to. But
hopefully so. I will say, actually to jump back quite a bit in one of your questions. One of the things that I was happy to have said yes to, and my team, we a lot of us jumped into it, was we got to build the Rancor.
Oh, sweet!
So that was pretty fun, and because it's life size.
So how much of that model was real? Was it the head and the shoulders, or did you have
head and the shoulders? And the head and the shoulders to the part where he could sit on it. We made a version that was
no way
animatronic, and then they put our animatronic head and shoulders thing on a motion base, so that thing, could just cruise.
And that was used when in the Rancor pit when he's talking to Danny Trejo.
Yep.
And then it was also used in some of the scenes when he's in Mos Espa on it.
Yep.
That wasn't all full CG. At points there was still.
It's hard to know because they'll shoot a lot of it with him on there.
Okay.
It even maybe sometimes as an element so that they have something to capture like light bounce and stuff like that. But But it was pretty damn cool to just like walk on set and there it is.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you
Yeah,
remembered
yeah.
that. Yeah, look at
Yeah.
that. You had a hand in bringing Boba's Rancor to life. That's pretty
Yep.
rad.
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
Plus, you got to work with the ageless Jennifer Beals, right? For Garza Flip.
Yes.
She was another fan favorite. I mean, I know she didn't have a ton of lines, but she really stood out to the fans as.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was good, and we had a lot of time on her because I really wanted to make her like a nice showpiece. When Jennifer came in, it's funny because we had to do a head cast on her, and she is just like a light spirit person, and some people can freak out when they do a head cast and you're molding their head. In the middle of it, I wasn't there, but my guys goes like in the middle of it, she like started like doing something with her hands, and he's like, oh, she's starting to freak out, and then like so she asked for like a pen and pad, and then so they gave it to her, and she wrote, she's like, I heart this. Like, it's just like and we were like, oh, okay. And when we pulled out the plaster head cast from the mold, I mean, she had like this slight little smile on her face. I mean, it's great. Like this just took us to some really relaxing Zen place.
Yeah.
She was a lot of fun. I worked on the headpiece and the tails. Alexei Dimitriou, the co-department head, he designed her and applied the makeup on her, beauty makeup, and he brought in the aspect of 3D printing that year, and so we designed the helmet piece that she was wearing, like all of her headpieces, and they were he 3D printed them, and we got that working with Shauna over in the costume department.
You probably had a few characters you worked on in her establishment. Did you have a hand in Max Rebo at all? Did you help with Max Rebo?
No. Legacy Effects did Max Rebo, but we did. There was a whole all the makeups in there. The team, makeup team, and hair team.
Did Max Rebo get out of the explosion? That's what everyone wants to know. Did he make it out? he made it off the sail barge somehow. Did he get out of Garza's after the Pikes blew it up?
Who's going to make it out of that?
Yeah, I was like, oh man, I think Garza's toast. But the thing though is that we didn't see bodies. We didn't see bodies. Yeah, we didn't see bodies. All right, Brian. Well, hey, this has been a fantastic conversation. Like I said, I don't want to keep you much longer here. Plus, I got to find where Nick disappeared to and finish the rest of this week's show. But it has just been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
If you just tuned in late here, we've been talking to Brian Sipe, who is a Hollywood makeup artist, an award-winning makeup artist out there in Hollywood, a 2-time Emmy and Saturn Award winner. And, we just kind of went through his career, all the major geeky pop culture films, and, of course, his work on Star Wars via The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, and fingers crossed, maybe Ahsoka, but we're not going to press him on that. So, again, sir,
well, thank you.
Awesome time talking to you.
For the opportunity, and I think Spencer
appreciate your time. Yeah, I'll let Spencer know to quit bothering you.
No problem.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay,
see you later.
You. All right, thanks.
Woohoo! That was awesome. I think I'm just gonna leave Nick sitting here frozen for the rest of the show. Let me call Nick back in and we'll try to carry on with the show here. Hopefully all you on the live stream enjoyed that. That was pretty fun. I've been wanting to get Brian on the show for years at this point in time, so I'm glad he got in. Sorry about that, Bat. I missed asking about Santa. That is something I probably should have done. But real quick, so we can continue on and we stop looking at frozen Nick. Let me see if I can call him back in here real quick. All right, Nicky buddy, let's see if he's at the desk. All right, well, I'm glad those of you on the stream were digging that. I'm getting some good feedback. I'm just going to see if I can get Nick in here. All right, I gave him the high sign. Maybe he'll call in. Hopefully he calls in, because I don't really feel like doing another solo show. But I guess for now, I'll flip over to the... So now, let's keep... I think we should keep Nick on the screen. How about you in the chat here? Should we keep frozen Nick on the screen or what? Yeah, I think we do it. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I'm going to keep Frozen Nick on the screen. If he calls back in, he'll call back in. But for now, let's carry on with the show. Thank you to those that were able to join the live stream. Like I said, pretty fun interview there. He was great, pretty open, and I think we got a great perspective on what it's been like to work in the Mandoverse shows. I love that he went to talking about fan feedback on some of the designs that we've discussed on this show. I love hearing about John and Dave working together. I told you John was the true visionary, but who would ever believe me? So yeah, I'm doing a show now with just me and Frozen Nick. Let me check Slack again, see if he showed up. You have absolutely got to love our technical failures on this show. I mean, it is unbelievable how bad some of the tech is. Not on my end, mind you, and I am using Apple devices, okay? I don't get paid, but the shit just works, all right? That's all I'm going to say here. So let me kind of collect my thoughts and get back on track as we've been... we went pretty long there, about an hour and a half. Wow. It doesn't look like Nick is coming back anytime soon. Let me check, see if he sent me any texts. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to get that one out there. All right, I'm going to send one more high sign to Nick, and then I'll get on with things. Ready if you want to join in. All right, let's see what he says. He's probably like, fuck that. I'm out of here. I'm taking another week off. But I'll keep it up there. All right, so Brian Sipe interview in the books. Nick looks like white Bill Cosby. I like it. So I'll get started with a little low-hanging fruit, non-Star Wars stuff. Oh, here he is. He's coming back. No more. I was just going to leave your frozen face up there if you weren't going to make it back. But here he is. Nick is back. Hold on. Oh, yeah. You've been sitting there. I had to on the interview because I didn't have time. I was focusing on Brian to actually take your feed down. I just put our logo on top of your frozen face for the rest of the interview. But hold on. I got to bring your audio back in because that was another neat thing that happened when you left. Because when I do this through OBS with Skype, I use your audio stem for you and the guests. So when you dropped out, no one could hear Brian.
Nobody could hear anything.
Right. Until I remember, I'm like, oh shit, Nick dropped off. I got to turn this back on. So, all right, we're back. Nick is back. Bummer. You were there for, 30, 40 minutes.
45 minutes.
Yeah. So you missed the back half when we were getting into the Star Wars stuff, but I know you'll watch it on the replay and, we went a little long, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of pick up with our usual topics, if that's all right with you, my friend. Welcome back. Hopefully you had a nice little trip there to the bayou.
Yeah.
Fat ass.
Good. It was good being home. Got to see the family, eat some crawfish, which is always fun. And then, it was just a short trip, but it was the first time that really all of the family had been back together since COVID. So it was nice to get to see everybody again.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Yeah, well, you didn't miss much here last week. It was busy, but I think it was just a lot of me saying the same thing over and over again, just with a few different words and phrases to kind of make it sound new. But glad you're back. Bummed you missed the second half of that interview because it got good. I mean, he was opening up about, I kind of asked him how sometimes the negative fan reaction on, say, the Ahsoka makeup, what that does to him as an artist and the actors. And he actually had some good stories about it. And, it does kind of bum them out when they get that feedback and shit on. And apparently he was getting DMs and hate through that over Ahsoka. So yeah, for those of you that don't think the Star Wars fandom has any toxicity, I don't know. There you go. You got it right from
somebody who literally works there
that
is
lives
telling
through
you
it.
That.
And the other thing
sucks.
I got him to speak on is the John and Dave dynamic, and he reaffirmed what I've been saying, that John is the fucking driver. He's the one that is setting the course, and Dave is the encyclopedia, the lore master. So for all you people want to know, Dave Filoni save us. He is a god. There's no doubt about it. But you can't forget what John has done. Like, John really is the impetus for the Mandoverse. Thank God he has Dave, because Dave makes it better. I'm not taking anything away from Filoni. I just sometimes he gets a little more credit than the big guy does. All right, Nick. So I know you'll check that out and give me some notes on my solo interviewing skills after the show. But real quickly, we don't have much time for piss-off talk, just recommendations. But I do want to talk about two films, and these are going to be very quick recommendations. And yes, they are recommendations, two lightsabers up. And the first one I'm talking about is The Northman. Awesome period piece. It kind of has Braveheart vibes without all the lovey-dovey nonsense. It's pure Viking revenge, but with kind of a true-to-form period take on it, meaning I think it's like the year 890 or maybe the year 900, and you follow Skarsgård, who, I mean, I'm not saying I know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure the guy ate a lot of growth hormone for the role. I read something that like he would eat like 3 hours a day or something like that. He would like the amount of food I don't care what he's eating.
Disgusting.
He had to have been taking some supplements too, because you just you do not develop traps like he had in this show, or that lean kind of distended belly without using growth hormone or something like that. It doesn't matter. He looks great. I wish I could act like him, not as an actor, but I really want to go around with my shirt off, acting like I'm a dog of war in a Viking berserker, because that seems like it probably was the way to live back in those days. I mean, dude, I'm telling you, like they used to get around the fire and be like growling at each other with their wolf hats on. Then they just run and take out a Christian settlement. And I don't know, it just looked like a lot of fun. So Northman, highly recommend, especially if you like period pieces. And it's not just all gore and brutality. There is an interesting little story there. The second one, which I kind of went to like, this could be fun, but it ended up being one of my favorite movies of the year, if not one of Nick Cage's best, and that is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
I want to see that so much.
Dude, it is him and Pedro need to make more movies together. They are a dynamic duo. They are great from a comedic standpoint. They're great from just an overall acting standpoint. I mean, these two are fantastic together. And it is the most meta movie you'll ever see. It's making fun of itself, making fun of Nick Cage, and he's in it. It's everything you would want in a movie that Nick Cage is in about Nick Cage. It's brilliant. Yeah. I mean, I'm talking laughing out loud, crazy dialogue, but it actually has a fun little action story to follow. And in the end, I'm not going to lie, I teared up a little bit. Not for Nick Cage. Not for Nick Cage, but for the message it's trying to tell, where it's kind of like, you know what? In the end, family is what's important, not careers, chasing dollars, this, that, and the other thing. It's spending moments with your family, especially as we all age and kids want to move on and all that fun stuff. So this is another two lightsaber up. I mean, I actually saw Northman and Massive Talent in the same week. They're that good. It's worth the trip, especially if you're an A+ member like myself at AMC. All right. And Nick, we covered Everything Everywhere last week, and I know you saw it and you weren't quite as high on it as me, but I still think it's something worth checking out.
Yeah, it's worth checking out. I kind of got bored in the middle.
Got you.
That's the only thing that I would say is like if they cut like 20 to 30 minutes of that movie, I think it would be great. But it really, like, I don't know. I think they just got a little overindulgent at a certain point in the middle of the movie.
You got guys doing off the top rope butt drops on the butt plugs and stuff. I mean, it goes in all sorts of directions, but I still think it's one of the more creative and more kind of straightforward takes on a multiverse. That's what I like the most. And the fact that Short Round and the Goonies kid finally came out of retirement and acted again. and he was quite good. Plus, Michelle Yeoh is
Yeah.
another ageless beauty. I mean, she's amazing. I love her. Hopefully, she gets an Oscar for this. All right, so let's try to rapid fire through a lot of these to kind of keep the show at a decent length. I know we started early, so we do have a little bit of a buffer, but I also don't want to be here all night because my armpits are already sweating, and for the first time in feels like a year, I can already feel my bladder filling up.
Yeah, we can kick through some of this stuff quickly.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, it's just, it's like, hey, this is happening. Here's our thoughts. But to start, Total Film this week is they're kind of having their Kenobi load blowing, if you will. Entertainment Weekly has been doing it for the past month, dropping loads all over our faces about, interviews, and Ewan said this, Hayden said that. We're not really telling you anything, but we know you'll eat it because you're Star Wars fans. And now it's Total Film's time. But at least Total Film, Nick, they gave us some new images that we haven't seen before. And the first one we're checking out, we get, in my opinion, one of the most unique Obi-Wan Kenobi outfits you'll ever see in live action, because if you think about it, in live action, we've only seen the dude in brown and tan, right?
Yeah.
So it is a little, I don't want to say jarring, but it is odd to see Obi-Wan Kenobi with some color. And as our buddy Johnny pointed out, it looks like he stole Jango Fett's tunic from Camino when he visited him in Attack of the Clones. So I did like that.
Yeah, he did have that kind of
it's the same
blue
thing, man. It's literally like Johnny did like his own little meme yesterday. And was like, you know what? Johnny's on to something here. I can go with this. I'll run with this.
Yeah.
So I mean, it looks like this is probably his work attire. I know we've only had one trailer, and we're supposed to be getting footage any minute or day now this week. But Nick, I believe this is probably what he wears when he goes to work in whatever town. We don't know if it's Isley or what, but we saw him kind of, doing array, like cleaning parts he must have scavenged, or maybe he works for a junk dealer just to pass time and make some credits so he doesn't have to eat Bantha shit every night. But yeah, it's cool to see Kenobi as in non-Kenobi threads. He's getting a whole new style going on.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see where this second picture takes place, because it's like, clearly, is this like downtown Coruscant or something?
No, this and a lot of this came out when you were overseas. This planet is the planet Daiyu, Nick. It's a new planet that's going to be featured for the first time in Kenobi. It's been described as kind of like a Taiwan type of location,
Okay.
And this is more than likely, again, everyone cover your ears real quick. I'm not going to give you the full spoiler, but we have talked about this because people are like, okay, well, why is he here? Well, he's here because he's trying to rescue a very important person to the Skywalker saga, right?
Yeah.
We've also, in our Discord, if you want to join, I believe we have links right here on YouTube. Just look down below where you're watching our dumb faces on the screen. But we also have an open link on our Instagram link tree. So at Star Wars Time Show on Instagram. But Nick, this second shot, and I don't have it zoomed in here, but if you look almost right off of Kenobi's shoulder there, you'll see almost like a silhouette of a character wearing a cowboy hat and a duster. Do you see what I'm talking about in that image? Mm-hmm. All right, so we've had some people latch onto that, saying that's Cad Bane, and then that's Cad Bane in the alleyway where we see the gun and Reva. And I'm going, no one truly listens to me, but that's okay. I've gotten used to that. That alleyway scene, I'm telling you, and you know me, I'm good on my word. If I'm wrong, I'll tell you I'm wrong. It's fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi holding a blaster, all right? That's enough. It's not Hondo. It's not Cad. And I'm not saying you people are stupid. What I'm saying is, just like last week, think about it narratively. What the fuck would Cad Bane have to do with cornering an Inquisitor in an alley on Daiyu? It makes no sense. Same for Hondo, same for Han Solo. It makes no sense. I'm telling you, that is Kenobi, and they're going to have one of their first conversations that we talked about last week when I broke down Reva's backstory. She's a former Jedi who was trained to become an Inquisitor, who kind of fell out of love with the Jedi Order, getting taken away from her parents, getting conscripted into a war, and then being forced to choose between death or hunting Jedi. So she's fucked up, and Kenobi realizes that, but he also senses that. And Nick, we talked about this months ago. I think both of us said there's a good chance Reva's going to end up helping Kenobi, which is going to end up getting her dead. Okay? And that's been kind of proven now by making Star Wars. But I'll tell you what. In this shot right here, my friends, if you're on the live stream, if not, you can check it out on StarWarsTime.net. It's our coverage on the new stills. I can't say that that's not Cad Bane, all right? Just hanging out there on Daiyu. Why is he there? I don't know, unless he was involved in the kidnapping that I don't want to go too far into. But I'll give those. They're like, look at that. That's kind of a. And he is like it's almost like they purposely kept that character darker because there's a dude right next to him who isn't as shadowed as that character. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I still don't know why Cad would be following an Obi-Wan Kenobi, who again no one should know that that's Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? Outside of maybe Reva. But hey, I won't shit on the fans too much. I can't quite draw a line to Cad being involved in any meaningful way outside of maybe like a cameo or whatnot.
Yeah, it would be hard to imagine like who would hire him outside of the Empire too, because there's really the only other person that knows that he's still alive is Anakin Skywalker. So Vader knows he's alive because he saw him walk away from Mustafar, and then Yoda. So, I mean, I guess you could say that, like, maybe Kenobi or maybe Vader, like, on the sly has hired a bounty hunter to just find him. Like, no matter what it takes, you keep an eye out. You don't have to scour the galaxy, but, if you get word, let me know.
Yeah, and even then, I'm like, well, that's what his Inquisitors are for. That's what they've been doing for 10 years now. So why is he slumming it with bounty hunters?
If it's just all your bases,
if it's just Cad on the planet and it's like a cameo and Kenobi walks by and Cad kind of has a double take, like I think I know that person. Okay, I could get into that, but if Cad becomes involved in any way, it's just I don't know. I don't see the point. He kind of had his glory in Book of Boba. Let's let homeboy Forlom be the bounty hunter star, right? He's supposed to show up in this, so I don't know. Who knows? But as I said in our Discord, if they're right, I believe it was SW Black Series Clips, aka Nova, in the Discord. If they're right, I will honor them with the useless trophy of knowing Star Wars speculation. I am a champion myself, and I am more than happy to share the trophy with others. And then last but not least, we got kind of a different angle on the Grand Inquisitor. And not that I was ever butthurt over this, but I do think this other angle, he still looks fine to me. I think Rupert looks good. And there's a little more of an egghead shape there, I think, from this angle. What say you, Nick? Are you still ready to burn down the art department?
I mean, I never cared to start with. But,
I know, I'm just screwing with you.
Let me see. So, I mean, like on this one, it does look like his head does have a bit more shape to it than the first time we saw it. So, I don't know if, this definitely wasn't like they didn't go back and make these changes after people freaked out, but I do think it's probably a more flattering angle of the shape of his head.
I mean, I think the one thing I could see is like, give the guy some yellow contacts at least. I mean, I guess I could buy into that critique. The other ones, and, I brought this up with Brian, and it's just like, sometimes it is what it is. And he's like, listen, man, when someone tells you what they want, that's what you do, or you have to leave the show. He's like, if the director, the showrunner, that's what they want a character to look like, that's what we make it look like. And we sit there and we go, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, you got it. I'm here to work. But I don't know. I think he looks fine. Fuck it. Who cares? In the end, it's all about story.
I mean, ultimately, it comes down to like how he portrays the character.
Right.
Like not if his head is tall enough. Like, And,
I mean, if he's like, hey, I'm the Grand Inquisitor. Yeah. I'll be like, all right, you're an asshole and you look like an asshole. But if he's good, then who cares?
Yeah, I mean, and it could be the same way too. Like they could have made him look just like it, but if the person who is doing it is acting it terribly, it doesn't matter if he looks like the Grand Inquisitor. It's a bad acting job.
So we'll get the point. We know the character. We'll get the point. And by the way, his fate doesn't get resolved till Rebels anyways, so we already kind of know the Grand Inquisitor's arc. Today, I didn't get to throw up the post, but they did release a few new concept art pieces, Nick. I have it up on the screen now, and you get a better concept shot of Kenobi's Tatooine gear. And I'll tell you what, if I was taller, I want that fucking jacket. That is a badass looking coat that they had Kenobi sporting as he was kind of a cave dweller on Tatooine. And then it looks like you get another shot of him on the Opie, the train he'll be taking, probably to Anchorhead, and then a little shot of what is more than likely an Inquisitor shuttle. So cool
I'm
stuff
sure
there.
that code will pop up somewhere online, whether
you know
it be
they
official merch or non-official. Yeah. It will be available.
I'm sure Eckstein will get the license right on her universe. I mean, she's definitely parlayed her amazing portrayal of Ahsoka in the animated universe into a full-on Star Wars career that doesn't involve working directly with Star Wars. I mean, she's got her universe. She hits the con scene, which I bet she makes. What do you think? What do you think an Ashley Eckstein makes every weekend at a con?
So it depends. Like I've heard different things from like this kind of circuit where like depending on your size, you'll get like paid to go. So like Kevin Smith, I think Kevin Smith said one time, he's like, "Look, they pay me $50,000 just to be there."
And
so
then
like,
he can charge for autographs, and that's all gravy?
Well, but they also have like stipulations, like you have to charge for autographs, because the way that it came up is like some people were like, "Hey man, like you're rich already. Why do I have to pay $30 to get a picture with you at a con?" And he literally told them, he's like, "Look, that's con rules. If you catch me while I'm not at the table, I'll take a picture of you anytime for free."
Yeah.
So like, it's just all based off of like your stature and how much people that like the con can make off of you. So sometimes if you have like an upfront fee that they have to pay you to show, they'll charge more for your picture. So for like Eckstein, I don't imagine that she has like a very high upfront fee, maybe like a $10,000 appearance fee or something like that. And her images, like pictures signed at her table, probably still cost, I would say $30. Something like that.
Yeah, because I don't know if this is true. I don't know if it's just someone bitching, but they announced Ewan is going to be at Celebration, and I think at the signing corral, which, more power to those of you that do that shit to get pictures with these people, and then you're like, "Hey, look, I got pictures with them. We're friends." I've never understood that, because they're working. Like, they take the same picture with every other asshole in line. But I think they're saying Ewan, it's like $300 to get a picture and a signature with them is like, whoa. But you're right. I bet Reed Pop or whatever signature outfit is probably getting a percentage of that as well.
Oh yeah, they get a percentage of those autographs for sure. Like all that money is not going to Ewan, guaranteed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that Ashley Eckstein's cost that much though, because as beloved as she is by like people like us, there are other people who literally just don't know who she is or don't know why she's there.
And plus she has that clothing line that I know does pretty well. And like I said, I think she does get a lot of the official licensing from Lucasfilm. Because my wife, like going back to what you were saying with this coat becoming official, and one day you can probably buy it in Galaxy's Edge. But my wife has, it's like an official Jyn Erso jacket from Rogue One when she, I think, went to like the water planet. I mean, it looks just like the costume, but it also looks like a real world jacket. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's only so much that you can copyright too in terms of like that style of like clothing, because it is a relatively common thing to see. I don't know if Star Wars can slap a trademark on a brown trench coat. So.
Of course they can. I mean, they've done it with regular tunics for years now, but they do. It's funny, like, that stuff's expensive at Galaxy's Edge, like the official robes or full-on costumes. We bought the Tross Ray one for Charlie, and I'll tell you what, it is worth the money. I mean, they are damn near screen accurate. But it's like, I think back to my early cosplay days in 2002. Is like, I would have killed to have been able to just go there and buy the official shit instead of like asking my mom at 21 years old, hey mom, can you make me a Jedi costume so I can go to Celebration? Yeah. Because they are looking great. There you go. 1/6 shooter is he got tickets for Ewan's autograph. And you know, I'm not shitting on autograph seekers. It's just, to me, it seems like a life suck. You're in line forever. And then you get there, and I know the talent. They're being cordial with you and playing with you, but I just feel like in the back of their head, they're sitting there going, "Is it time for me to fucking leave yet? Can I please go home? When can I get back to the hotel room? Why did I sign up for this? Oh my God, is it really worth the $50,000 to be sitting here with these fat, disgusting people draping their arms around me and having me wanting to do poses and stuff?" But hey, they are cool collectibles if you can tolerate that and get them. I mean, we saw Justin's collection. I mean, he doesn't necessarily do the con stuff. I mean, he actually hunts them down and finds them on location. But yeah, I think I killed myself in early Celebrations waiting for the exclusive Celebration store and being in line for 6 hours. I can't do that shit anymore. And I've never been an autograph person anyways. It's like they all half-ass it. It just looks like poop anyway, so who cares? But again, not shitting on anyone other's collecting hobbies and interests. More power to you. I just pre-ordered my deluxe Bespin Hot Toys Luke. Like I need that, just like I need a fucking hole in my head, but here we are. Okay, so sticking with Kenobi here, like I said, Total Film is dropping, well, Games Radar, who must be owned, or they own Total Film, because they're essentially vomiting up all of Total Film's content here. And we got an interview with Ewan, and I thought it was pretty interesting to hear him talk here. And I don't think he was bullshitting us, Nick. And this is in relation to Ewan saying that he was genuinely frightened while filming scenes with Darth Vader and stormtroopers, like seeing Vader in full garb, stormtroopers in full garb. And let's kind of find out why. All right. This is a bit of a long quote, so I may end up paraphrasing it here. You never know. So here's Ewan on kind of working with Darth Vader, because you got to think this is the first time he's actually acted with Vader. You know, in the prequels, he was acting with his alter ego, Anakin Skywalker. I've never met Darth Vader. I had rehearsed this. No, I'm not going to do that. I had rehearsed a scene with Vader, but not with the helmet on or anything like that. When we came to do the scene, when they shouted action, he had to come from behind me. I turned around and fucking Darth Vader was coming at me. It was like I was 6 again. I never acted into Vader's helmet. I never looked him in the eye. It scared the shit out of me. I'm not joking. It gave me a proper jolt. That's how you know he's a Brit. A proper jolt.
Proper.
Yeah. When shit's proper, you know they're British. A proper jolt of absolute fear. I was like, oh my God, that's not acting. That's real. I'm really, truly frightened right now. And the same thing would happen with the stormtroopers. I'd worked with clone troopers before, but so many of them were CGI. I never worked with stormtroopers. And again, I was like 7 years old, because when you're actually faced with a stormtrooper with a blaster, it's like fucking hell. It's like an actual childhood memories of being scared. That's how deeply it's in us. I've acted for 30 years and I've never been genuinely frightened when I'm acting frightened. But I had moments on this that were genuinely quite scary. It's so funny.
It's great to hear this because it immediately compares his experience with the prequels to now. Because like he was saying here, I'd worked with clone troopers before, but so many of them were CGI. And now on these shows, there is a distinct effort to make as much live action as possible. And you can see that already paying off just in the interactions between like the characters. Like that it makes a huge difference when Darth Vader is standing in front of you and not a stick on a ball that you're just talking into, and that will become Darth Vader later.
Or like, one Tamara Morrison standing there, and then you have to pretend there's 50 other, and you're like, you soldier, and he's just pointing into the ether like an asshole. No, I love hearing stuff like this. I mean, I would love to hear Ewan actually speak it, because I feel like I could listen to that guy forever talk about Star Wars and acting in it. But I do think he's being genuine, and I think we will see this moment, and we will see that fear. And it sounds like, I think it's one of the leaks we've talked about where, again, you might want to plug your ears for a few seconds, where I know we've learned he's on some sort of transport headed somewhere, and he is being pursued by Vader and stormtroopers. And it sounds like for some reason he's lost his lightsaber. So he's truly, like he said, looking back on the run, and you've got the big bad black armor guy and then his henchmen chasing you down with blasters, and you don't really have a way to protect yourself, at least the way you know how to with a lightsaber. So yeah, I can't wait to kind of see this, and if we truly get that sign of like, oh shit, look at this motherfucker coming down, getting ready to knock me out. But it is kind of fun to hear him talk like, yeah, I've never acted with Vader, and now he has, and he's never worked with stormtroopers, and now he has, and how he correlates it back to the clone troopers. Just like, we've seen their progression from clone to, occupying force to conscripted force, all the way up to the First Order. So I don't know. Like I said, anytime Ewan's talking Star Wars, it's interesting to me.
Yeah.
The other one, we actually got Hayden talking again too. This also comes from Total Film, and he is much better than most of these TV Star Wars show actors in terms of saying absolutely nothing but giving you something interesting to talk about. I mean, this guy, I don't know if it's from his days on the prequels or what, but he is pretty damn good at keeping things close to his armored vest. All right. So first up, Deborah Chow also came out and was like, listen, all that Maul stuff you guys heard about that was reported on, that's a bunch of horse shit. As long as I've been involved, we've never had Darth Maul in any of it. Dave did a beautiful job of telling that story already. For anybody trying to tell a story in the middle of these two trilogies, there were only certain elements that made sense in where Obi-Wan is. With a lot of the legacy aspects, the decision to bring Vader into it was not made lightly. We're 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. Where is Obi-Wan's starting place? What has been important to him in his life? Anakin and Vader are a huge and very profound part of his life. We ended up feeling that he made sense in telling this story, and Vader cast such a dark shadow in this that to have Maul as well, it might be a little bit much.
Yeah.
She's not.
I just didn't think that it would ever make sense to have Maul in this show.
Right. Yeah, it's like, come on. I mean, as she says herself, that his arc in Rebels is choice fucking Star Wars storytelling. From start to finish, when he shows up again as like that crazy coot in that temple looking for a Sith holocron, literally fighting Inquisitors. Like he is so crazy. I mean, no one wanted him around at that point in time. And he was doing it. I mean, you got to think at that point, he gave up Crimson Dawn to search out where Kenobi was. That's how much it was eating his ass. So she is right. We don't need to see it again. And you could never have Maul and Vader in the same series and it feel natural to me. It's just too much badassness at once, right? They're almost my 1 and 2 on the dark side. They are my 1 and 2 on the dark side. I think my head would explode. It'd be too much. It's like, no, there's too much awesome evil to even comprehend what we're watching right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the only thing that I would want to see, and like this is what people have talked about for a long time, is like to see a proper Maul versus Vader fight. But I don't like. Do you think that will ever happen? Will we ever get a thread that's played out either in cartoon world or live action world where we actually do get a straight up Maul versus Vader fight?
No, I don't think so. It would be really cool, but you would have to really weave a story to tell why those two are fighting. Well, you know what, man? I mean, no, I'm wrong, because I was thinking about Crimson Reign. I'm like, well, no, Maul's been dead for like 6-7 years at that point in time because Kira has taken over. Because last week I talked about how Vader, through his trickery and master planning, ended up taking over a cell of Crimson Dawn, himself, and then pitting that cell against an Imperial cell because he didn't like the Imperial commander and he's trying to clean up Crimson Dawn, so he just had them kill each other. So I was like, well, there, there's Vader mixing in with Crimson Dawn, but again, that's well beyond Maul's time. Maul's dead. Yeah,
once you get there, he's already dead. I mean, it would have to happen in this time period. It would have to happen in the time between 3 and 4, because by 4,
he's gone.
Maul's already dealt with. He's gone.
Right.
So it would have to come up somehow. Like, we know that Maul's ultimate plan was like, we have to kill either Palpatine or Vader or both, because if it sinks into their hands, the whole universe is going to go, or the whole galaxy is going to go down. So like, he would still have to be at some point in his journey prior to Rebels, like hell bent on, I have to get to Vader and kill him.
That's a good point, Nick, because in, I think, Crimson Reign again, when Kira finally reveals her ultimate plan, because up until she reveals her plan, you're like, all right, she just wants to be the queen bitch of the crime syndicates. But that's not what it is. She's like, no, I'm doing all this to get rid of Palpatine and Vader. They're the reason the galaxy's fucked up. But she said that she learned about the dark side from Darth Maul, or Maul at that point in time. So
because that's what he was saying to Ahsoka and stuff during the Siege of Mandalore, was like, look, I don't like, we have problems. I hate Kenobi and stuff like that. But look, if Vader and Palpatine take over, it's over for everybody.
That is, that's why it's that arc, that 3-episode arc, the Siege of Mandalore, is another example of just choice Star Wars storytelling, because Maul sets all that shit up. He planned all that to get Obi-Wan, but more importantly, Anakin to Mandalore. That's who he wanted to come. As much beef he had with Obi-Wan for that particular job, he wanted Anakin there because he figured out before the Jedi, everyone else, with time to spare, that Anakin was the key to Palpatine fully taking over the galaxy. So that's why I love the guy. He just couldn't ever get past his own rage. You know what I mean? Like
it depends on what they do, because like there's still some of his story that's untold before he reemerges into Rebels.
Why does he ultimately leave Crimson Dawn? Why does he finally kind of, and he goes kooky? I mean, I was
gonna say, the next, when we meet him in Rebels, he's like insane.
He's this guy right here. Like, if you're on the stream, I have a little 375 version of him. He's like wearing that hood. He's got like a cane, and he's nutty. I mean, I think some of that was a play to soften Ezra to him, but he definitely, his focus became so singular on Kenobi that his mind was more or less lost. I mean, there was nothing, no other room in his headspace beyond his thirst for revenge for Kenobi. And it drove him even more mad than he probably already was after spending all those years on a fucking trash planet with spider legs. So yeah, Nick, I mean, it would have to be during the Bad Batch era, the Kenobi era, but I don't think it would ever come to blows. It would more or less be, hey, Maul, you fuckhead, keep Crimson Dawn in line. We let the crime syndicates do what they want as long as they're doing what we want them to do. And then, you might have to check them. But considering Palpatine let him flip around the galaxy for as long as he did, he didn't care. He knew Maul was no ultimate threat to him anymore. So they just kind of let him chill. So I don't know why Vader and Maul would ever get mixed up, I guess, is where I'm going with that way too long diatribe.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, I agree, but it's just, it would be cool if they did somehow have that meeting.
Yeah, I mean, fanboy moment, that's a boner popper. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. Okay, so
but yeah, I mean, in the same article, Hayden went on to speak a little bit about his time in the prequels and stuff, and how what he's doing now is just markedly different than what he was doing and what he was hired to do in the prequels. So this was his quote initially. He said, when George Lucas had brought me onto the prequels, it was to play Anakin. He gets knighted as Darth Vader towards the end for a couple of scenes. And for a couple of scenes I get to put on the suit. But my journey with the character was with Anakin Skywalker. But the character as a whole, He's such a complex character, and now getting to explore the mindset and the emotional state of Vader has been a lot of fun.
Who else can't wait to see this man come back to the screen playing Anakin Vader?
Yeah, I mean, we were calling for it since Rogue One, since we knew that Rogue One was going to have Vader in it. But yeah, I mean, I never really thought of it as him kind of being shackled to Anakin Skywalker and not really being able to explore the character.
It is a good point. I mean, he had to play Anakin, and sadly, I've said this a million times. It's why I didn't initially love the prequels, and I still don't think his fall is fully justified just in the movies. With the Clone Wars, sure. But George didn't give him enough dark moments. I mean, he gave him the Sand People deal, and his I think Hayden's best performance in Star Wars was in the Lars family shed when he was like, "Hey, Jim, Anakin's Obi-Wan's holding me back." You know, that's when I'm like, okay, I can see where this cocky ass kid could go to being someone that commits genocide throughout the galaxy. But we didn't get a lot of those moments. And Nick's right. I mean, he's playing a different character. Anakin is technically a full-on different person. Even Obi-Wan tried to sell that to Luke. Like, listen, Darth Vader betrayed and murdered your father. He got very literal with it, but that's what happened. I mean, when Vader was born, knighted, as Hayden says, Anakin ceased to exist. But hey, here's the thing you missed from last week, though, which adds even more weight to what Hayden's saying here. He binged the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels to prepare.
I saw that, and
that gets my nipples so hard, dude. I mean, that is like nipple-inducing bones, because I feel like that's what he needs. You need, just like I needed the Clone Wars to finally come around on the prequels. I think he needs that too.
Yeah, and I think that one, James Arnold or Matt Lanter, not James Arnold Taylor, Arnold Taylor, that's Obi-Wan. Matt Lanter explored the character of Anakin Skywalker more than Hayden ever really got to. And a lot of actors in that circumstance would just say like, hey, can you give me like the spark notes? Just give me the highlights. What do I need to know? And then that way I can take that into account in my portrayal of the character. But like because like, look, for us, like, okay, yeah, binging a Star Wars show doesn't seem like that much work. It seems pretty enjoyable. But for an actor, for somebody who is literally playing this character, to sit down and say like, I'm gonna binge all of this stuff, hundreds of hours of stuff to watch, just to make sure that I'm prepared and up on everything I need to know about Anakin going into this, and like the circumstances of his degradation outside of just what he portrayed on the movie screen, is actually dedication to his craft to like a higher degree than he needed to,
it's such an informed approach that he is taking, or has taken. Obviously he's done all this already. He already watched everything and already acted, but you're spot on. I think by doing that, he now sees what Anakin was up to from when he stopped playing him in Attack of the Clones and then picked him back up in Revenge of the Sith. Because that's almost 3 years of a character's life that Hayden really didn't get to explore. He picked it up right as he was becoming a Jedi Knight, and then as he fell. So seeing that, just like it did for me, I'm thinking to Hayden is like, okay, I get this now. I see how this character always kind of was skirting the edge, played with fire a few times, especially when things involved his lady love. So I could see why he would make some of these choices. But then by watching Rebels, Nick, I think that also is needed for him, even though it's an older Vader than he's playing here. He's playing 32-year-old Vader in Kenobi. He's probably almost 40, 38 or so in Rebels, I think, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Who gives a shit? It's all close enough.
I mean, 38 to 40, because Rebels really kind of butts right up to the beginning of like Rogue One era and stuff like that.
I think Rebels ended like still 2 or 3 years before the Battle of Yavin. Anyone in the stream that's into that type of stats, let us know how far off we are. I mean, I know Ezra is like the same age or a day younger than the twins. They were all born around Empire Day. But I believe Rebels itself, at least the last scene we see before the epilogue when Thrawn and Ezra get taken off by the space whales, I still think we're like 2 to 3 years out from Battle of Yavin. But I don't feel like looking for it, so I'm just going to say I'm right. But what Rebels would have given Anakin is, obviously Vader's connection and relationship with the Inquisitors. You got a little Ahsoka stuff in there. You got him interacting with Jedi and Kanan and Ezra. So I don't know. I like I said 5 minutes ago, even more than seeing Ewan again, I am most excited, and we're probably not going to get this now until the end of episode 2 if we do get that leak, that rumored stinger. I can't wait to see what he has done, what he brought to Darth Vader. After all these years off, and then with his animation franchise study, I don't know. It could be one of the best portrayals of Vader we've seen.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that given the hands that it's in with Deborah Chow, and then obviously with Filoni, they're kind of steering the ship or giving recommendations and stuff like that. I think that it's going to be maybe the best Vader we've ever seen outside of the original trilogy.
I think the only thing that may be slightly off, and Hayden wouldn't confirm this or not, and I love the guy. He is our Vader voice for life. But Nick, you can't tell me that James Earl Jones sounded like the same Vader in Rogue One as he was in the original trilogy.
Oh, no.
Right? Something like his voice, something didn't sound the same. It just,
I mean, it's the commanding presence of the voice was a little bit lacking, but it's also because James Earl Jones is nearly 90 years old.
Oh yeah, I think he's 91, man. He's not nearly. I think he's
90. Yeah, he's 91. You're right. He's 91 years old. So you got to figure 40 years ago,
right?
40 something years ago when he was filming the first one, he was still like in his late 40s.
Probably.
And he just had like the boom and the depth, like the modulation of the voice is still there.
I can't even try to get that low. I'm not much of a baritone. I was a tenor in choir.
So I think that could be the one thing that might throw things off, but I have full faith in the team that's not even going to be an issue. I'm sure it'll be an issue for some fans because all those little things are. Real quick though, an interesting thing. I asked Brian, I was like, "Hey, you excited for Kenobi?" He's like, "Yeah, I don't know. I'll check it out." He's like, "I don't. It's not John and Dave, so I don't know really how it's going to be." But he's like, "I know Deborah's over there, and I worked with her." So it sounds like, and I don't want to speak for him, but it sounds like they have kind of rotated crews because he was not on Mando season 3, which could either mean there's not a lot of alien stuff and it truly is just all Mandalorians in their fucking helmets, or they have fully rotated out departments, which can happen depending on directors and showrunners and whatnot. Because even my stunt buddy is like, "Yeah, dude, on book they almost wiped the Mando stunt cast and brought in new ones outside of Lateef and Brendan for Mando himself. A lot of the stunts weren't the people that worked on Mando S1 and S2."
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. Yeah, I'm not sure, because I remember when we were talking to Alex, he mentioned that these crews kind of rotate out sometimes depending on who your creative person is and who your showrunner is and stuff like that. So maybe Deborah's just got a working relationship with another makeup crew that she's
not personal. A lot of time it's not personal. It's just, if you work well with another department head, you're going to bring that department head with you on every damn project you get. A lot of these directors, James Gunn, Rian Johnson, even George himself, if you look, they find their crew and that's it. They stick with them throughout their career for the most part. So yeah, I mean, maybe that's why Brian wasn't on Mando season 3. Maybe it just wasn't needed because a lot of his work was, on alien type of characters. Ahsoka's what he won the Emmy for. Obviously, I was trying to get him to confirm that he has been picked up for the Ahsoka series, but I didn't want to push him too far. He's like, I don't know, you might see. And he's like, I do think they're starting to shoot soon, so who knows? But here's really, to me, Nick, the interesting part of Hayden's interview here with Total Film. So, we've heard he's working with Ahsoka. Rosario kind of confirmed that, probably on accident. It still hasn't been made official. So they kind of asked him about the rumors of being in Ahsoka, and here's what he said. And I think, I don't know, I think he's given us a little bit of a nugget here. The extent of this journey, I think, remains to be seen. But what a privilege to get to come back and do this and to be part of this project. So to you, is he saying like the extent of my return as Darth Vader isn't quite finished yet?
Yeah, I think so. Because here's the thing with Darth Vader and the character of Anakin Skywalker is that it doesn't matter where you are in the timeline. He can pop in. He can be relevant. He can pop in. Even if they chose to make a series on, leading up to the sequel trilogy, he could fit in there. He could fit in so many different places because of his connection to the main characters across the length of the saga. I mean, he could pop in as a Force ghost, or just his voice speaking to or trying to speak to Ben Solo.
I was going to say, I mean, his grandson had God worship over him. I mean, he might have played Ookie Cookie with his burnt helmet at some point in time. Him and the Knights of Ren, you know what I mean? Sitting around. Yeah, I win, you lose. You got to eat the cookie. So, in Ahsoka, I still think he'll predominantly be Anakin. I guess I could see them maybe doing a flashback to their fight in Rebels, which I think would be fucking badass if they gave us a snippet of that battle in live action. But I think he'll predominantly be used as Anakin. So that's why I'm wondering if he's talking about the journey of Vader, unless he lumps them together, which is wrong. I mean, is the potential of a Vader series alive, you think, or do you think he'll just he'll kind of be like a guest star spread throughout other properties?
I always thought that it would be like completely negligent on the TV department's end if they didn't at least kick around the idea.
Yeah, at least have a pitch meeting, right? Like at least talk about it.
Because it's just like, unless you really want to keep this character, which would seem odd to me, unless the TV end really wanted to keep the character of Darth Vader just like sacrosanct, you leave him alone, you only use him sparingly. Like, unless that's their take on how they approach Vader, then I don't see why you wouldn't at least talk about it, because he is the crux of the whole saga. Like, regardless of how much he probably, fell off in the sequel trilogy and how they probably could have used him more in there. Right. Like, he's the crux of the whole thing. Yes.
I mean, that comes from the maker's mouth himself. The story of Star Wars was always the story of Anakin Skywalker, at least 1 through 6.
Yeah. So it would be weird to not have that meeting and say like, okay, we have this Kenobi series, which essentially looks at the galaxy post-Imperial occupation from Kenobi's point of view.
10 years of hell for normal people.
But you could look at that in such a different way as like, it could be 10 years of like this tortured experience, but also you have to have like in Vader's mind also like this was his ultimate goal. Like he's like there has to be a few years in there where he's like, we have accomplished everything that we've ever set out to do.
Taking a victory lap.
Yeah, like me and Palpatine together did this, and just like the intricacies of not only what's happening in his mind, but also the depth of the relationship between him and Palpatine, where it's essentially just like a one-sided torture chamber of like Palpatine constantly just torturing him.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know how you don't pitch that.
How much do you think Vader really cared about taking over the galaxy, or do you think it was a cover for his bad choice in killing his wife? I mean, do you think he just kind of like when he knew he fucked up? Do you think he just was like, you know what, I'm a loser at this point. I've pissed away anything good in my life, so I might as well just go balls deep into being a villain.
See, I think that like the only thing that like that puts me off of that, where like he's just settling as a backup once Padme died, is that when he's on that platform on Mustafar and he's giving that speech to Kenobi,
he believes
there's
himself.
Conviction in what he's saying.
He believes himself.
Yeah, like,
and you're right, Nick, because there's a through line in Attack of the Clones in that horrendous field scene where he's like butt fucking that goofy Naboo cow.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Yeah, he kind of, they're talking politics, and he's more or less, hey, yeah, I'd be cool if we just fucking told everyone what to do, and they did it. So yeah, he kind of always was a little bit of a fascist, if you will. I think you're right.
Yeah, he had those fascist undertones in him, even in his like before he was a knight, before he was knighted. He was like, hey,
you're right.
If there was a firmer hand, we wouldn't be in this situation.
But I'm with you. I think if we ever did, and I hope to God we do, I would want it to pick up almost day 2 of him becoming Darth Vader. Like, I want to see those struggles of literally he was Anakin 24 hours ago. Everything was going for him. He's going to have babies. He had one of the hottest babes in the galaxy, to now he's locked in a fucking walking lung, like an iron lung. Yeah. Burnt to a crisp. He has no original appendages left. Like, he has no real arms left. He has no real legs left. He's on fire. They didn't heal his skin, right? They were just peeling his fucking burnt tunic off, and then they slapped him right into the suit. They didn't like graft any new skin on him. They kept him in permanent pain. It was by design.
It was just exactly.
And I know some of the comics have touched on this, so there is canon if they want to pursue it. But to me, I think the most interesting time to get into Vader's headspace from a first-person perspective, him being the lead, would be shortly after the fall. Like his fall.
Yeah.
Because that's where I think you really get into his mind and the regrets, but then he gets mad at himself and deflects and blames Kenobi, and that, gets the rage machine going, where the power gets going, and forging his lightsaber, hunting down Jedi, getting fucked with by Palpatine.
Yeah. And here's the thing is, like, Hayden's not necessarily in high demand. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't be. I'm saying that Hollywood has essentially blackballed him. And then after a while, he just kind of decided to take smaller roles, do independent film, stuff like that, just to keep his craft up. But like, you could run a or a Vader series from day 2, like you were saying, all the way up until Rogue One starts. Like, you could have covering decades of time. Yeah, I like that. Oh yeah, you could have multiple seasons of it, and you could have it running. You could have the show that runs a season that runs concurrently to the season of Kenobi, because those two sides of that coin would be so vastly different that you wouldn't even realize that you're watching something that's already happened.
Yeah,
like, it would just.
You know what? I think you and I we kind of spitballed this before. We're like, it would almost be cool if they did a Vader series during the Kenobi timeline, but from the Empire's point of view versus the Resistance rebellion point of view, and it would be a completely different show. It'd be like one of those movies where you see the end before you watch the beginning, and then you kind of see how you get there. But now we'd be seeing it from the dark side, and Anakin, instead of just getting a flash of him in the back to tank, we get like an inner monologue or a dream sequence to see what he is thinking about as he's sitting in back to live another day. Because as we've found out, Vader's every fucking day is getting torn apart, put into the back to tank, and then getting all his shit reattached just to start his day. I get up, scratch my balls, take a piss, take a shit, have a green drink. That's my morning. Vader gets up, has to get his arms ripped off, his legs ripped off, put into a tank, taken out, put everything reattached, and then he's off to the races. So, he's grumpy from start to finish for good reasons. So, hey, man, I think if you and I on this silly little show just speak it into existence enough, at some point in time, manifest. The Force is going to take care of it for us. So it will happen. We'll keep stumping for a Vader, a Star Wars story coming to Disney Plus in the year 2056.
Yeah. We'll be long dead, but that show will live on.
Yeah, so hopefully that meant that, Hayden isn't done just with Ahsoka. Maybe that means there is a potential of a Vader series or other potential for him to pop up around the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, love it.
This is a quick one here, not much to talk about. It hasn't dropped yet because no one in the live stream has let us, but according to Making Star Wars, by April 28, we should get some new Kenobi footage, and it sounds like they're going to be like either 15 minute, that would be
15 second.
That'd almost be too much.
That would be nice.
15-second either TV spots or full clips, and Making Star Wars made it sound like some of the footage that's going to be shown is going to pay off on some of the stuff we've been speculating on based on his leaks. And then, some official promo art made it out in the wild, but who gives a shit? It's just art, and it's probably for toys that we will not be able to get until 3 years after the show has released. Because that's kind of how we're rolling these days, Nick. For example, the Ahsoka figure, which shouldn't come out until 2023, a lot of people are getting it now in 2022 from a show that aired in 2020. I mean, Moon Knight, it's active right now. They already released all the action figures. It's like, why?
I don't know how. Like, why are you so behind with Star Wars? I just don't.
It's weird, man, because they used to be on it. Like, at least through The Last Jedi, I remember, Toys R Us's or Target's having I think it was called like Force Fridays or some shit where here's all the new figures for the new movie Rogue One. Go get them, and you could get them. You could get the Funko Pops. You could get the figures. Did I ask you a question? I'm having trouble hearing you. Yeah, because I'm not talking to you, dummy. So yeah, it's weird, but whatever. At this point, I hate to even admit this because I feel a little bit of shame based on how much money I spent. It's like the enjoyment of collecting Star Wars figures these days is almost gone the way of the Funko, which is a little scary, but could be a positive, at least for the Haywood family bank account.
You could, you could take that passion that you once had. Now you have an open, if you do choose to move away from the collecting thing, I will say you would have open mind space to put towards something else, else that you find passion.
Now, Nick, as I say that, and remember, I just told you like 30 minutes ago, I've pre-ordered my $365 Hot Toys Bespin Luke. So it's not fully gone, but like even the Black Series figures, I think once I get this last wave that I've had pre-ordered now for weeks, if not months, I don't know, it might just be done. I don't have the draw to the toy photography, which was driving a lot of that crazy spending that I did over those years. And hopefully it comes back at some point in time because, the kid's 6 now, getting into more sports. So I have even less time. We got gym Monday night, swimming Tuesday, lacrosse Friday. We're already getting there, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, I say depending on the sport that she gets into, that shit could get expensive too.
Yeah. No, hey, Justin, I'm glad you're back. We haven't seen you in a few weeks. We got SW Props, Justin Nunez in the live stream. We're not making Celebration. It's not a money thing. It when they changed the dates, it butted up against my yearly family trip to the beach. So that's why I will not be in attendance. I know Nick's got something to do too. So
yeah, we got.
I would love to go to. I mean, this would be the first time like we've been doing this for years because when we went to Celebration 2019, we had just started Star Wars Time Show as its own thing. And, we did a live broadcast every day from the show. And, I was mainly running into people that I knew from toy photography. Now it would be like, oh, hey, there's some of these people that waste their lives listening to us. Let's hang out. But the swank that Nunez and Devin get into, I definitely link up with these dudes. I mean, Nunez is at like some private Malibu beach house this week, just fucking hanging out like a pimp. So hell yeah, if we were out there, I'd definitely be shacking up with those dudes because they got the connections. that cameo money that Devin's bringing in these days, like I'm sure they'd be picking me up in like a Ferrari or something. All right,
they're making it.
We're shifting out of Kenobi zone, but we're sticking with Disney live action TV. Next topic is on the Acolyte. All right, Nick, we got some casting rumors last week that kind of add a little, maybe a bit more clarity to what this show could be about. Apparently, it's also not going to start filming now until October. But the important thing here, Nick, we have 2 new character descriptions that popped up. This comes from the Illuminerdi. We always like to give credit to people, even though we would never get anything like that in return. It's fine. We get it. We're black sheep, or I've made us the black sheep. But according to Illuminerdi, they came across 2 new character descriptions for the Acolyte, which again is supposed to take place about 50 years before the Phantom Menace. So right at the tail end of the High Republic era. With that being said, I would imagine Mace Windu has potential to be seen in Acolyte, right? I mean, maybe not. If it's 50 years before TPM.
Because he's human and he was relatively young, so probably not. Yeah, unless he had extended life. For some reason.
Unless he was like one of those humanoids that could live 200 years, like he's from fucking Numenor and Lord of the Rings. Then exactly. No way. No,
he was born 72 before the Battle of Yavin, so 72 BBY, and he died 19 BBY.
The math is already getting too hard.
This happens like 200 BBY, I think.
All right, yeah, fuck it. Like I said, I'm already like BBY, AD, BC, ABC. Who the fuck knows where we're at anymore? So okay. But like I said, the important part of this update on the Acolyte are the new character descriptions. We have Paul, who is, I guess they're looking for a 50-year-old white Weil male. I got to read it as written. So whatever the hell that is, a Weil male, series regular, but only needed for season 1. So I don't know if that's like, hey, this show's already getting a second season, but that could definitely be implied reading that description. The other one is Miri, which is an 8 to 10-year-old black female lead guest star seeking identical twins. Now, let me clarify why I think they're looking for twins. If they're looking for a 8 to 10-year-old, they're probably going to run into legal problems with how long they can use them on a shoot each day. So that's probably why they're going with twins, kind of like the Olsen deal where one can act in the morning, then you bring the other one in to act in the afternoon because they can't work for 8 hours plus.
Yeah.
So Nick, do you think Paul, the character of Paul, could be maybe like a bad guy or maybe like a good guy that gets taken out at the end of season 1? Or what's your thoughts?
Yeah, that was my initial thought was like a not necessarily a Jedi master, but like a Jedi Knight that is out on missions and stuff like that. Maybe has a Padawan learner with Miri. Like maybe Miri and Paul are connected. Like Miri is a Padawan learner under Paul. And then Paul gets taken out, like on a mission.
Yeah, and mind you, there's already supposedly a lead actress, and I hate myself, I forget her name. She's a very lovely-looking black lady.
Amanda, her last name escapes me.
Yeah,
Amandla, it's Amandla Stenberg.
Well, look at you. I mean, I was going to give you 50-50 credit on just the first name, but you sealed the deal. Good for you. See, that's why it's nice to have Nick around. When my brain fucking hits a speed bump, he's right on top of it. So these are, and it says it here. I mean, Paul is a series regular, but only needed for 1 season, and Miri is described as a lead guest star, which means they'll be a prominent character, but they're not the series lead. It's not their story.
What may be interesting is if Miri is playing like a past version of Amandla's character, like because they put it as lead guest star, which is odd because lead guest star usually is not a thing.
I was going to say, it's not even real.
Or you're a guest star.
Yeah, it's not even real.
Yeah.
It's just you're a fucking guest star, you're in the cast.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe it is something like that where she's playing Amanda Stenberg's character younger, like in flashbacks, showing her training, showing different stuff like that. So,
yeah, because we don't really know dick about this outside of it is more or less the resurgence of the dark side within the galaxy. Because during the High Republic, the Sith were, I don't want to say non-existent, they were just
dormant.
Yeah, they knew they couldn't fuck around with the Jedi Order. I mean, the Jedi during the High Republic have been described as peak pimps. I mean, they were everything. They were the fucking rock stars. They settled the wild, wild galaxy. The Sith had no fucking chance in hell. No chance in hell if they would have ever made themselves known. So it could very well be that the main character might have been a Jedi, and we're seeing her kind of being tempted by the dark side. And like Nick says, we could get flashbacks to Miri, unless Miri truly is a different character. But yeah, that's definitely a possibility. Paul could very well be the antagonist. I saw this, and this doesn't come from me, so don't accuse me of being a social justice hater. But one of the trolls out there was like, "Yep, Paul, 50-year-old white male, he's definitely the bad guy, going to get killed by, women of color and show the power." I'm like, well, I guess you could think about it that way if you're a fucking troglodyte, but...
Yeah, it's like... Why? Like, I don't understand why that would be
because
a problem.
Nick, to these people that don't like seeing anything but white men, it's, another white guy being the bad guy, and people of color are taking him out to put the white man in his place
I'm just
what
going to
they're
put
getting
it
at.
Yeah, no, I get it. But what they also have to realize is that white men in movies have been both the good guy and the bad guy forever. So maybe they, changing one.
I know. I mean, dare we say anymore? We'll get the woke label, which I've always said just means you're an enlightened human. I mean, woke has become like a derogatory term over on the right. I'm like, no, it just means you're enlightened and you're not probably a closeted something or other that you just hate yourself and project it on the other people. But we'll leave politic talk at that. Moving back to Acolyte. So.
I'm excited for the show, honestly. I mean, this is the first time that we're really going to get to delve outside of, like, hey, there's going to be no Skywalkers there. Zero. You can't even pretend to have a Skywalker there, because the first Skywalker wasn't around at that period of time. I mean, we have to assume, unless like Shmi's line goes way back or, whatever.
I would think, but like, I mean, to you, Nick, the only familiar character should be Yoda, because I would think a lot of the other famous High Republic Jedi that people are reading in the books are probably gone by now.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of them are human.
Yeah.
I mean, Avis is human. The male, there's like a lead
Dippy,
male
and
human.
Trippy.
I forgot his. Yeah, they're all. So either they're all human, or they may die before they come around to it. And then you have the other Jedi that are on the council at the time of TPM. Like, who would be around there? I don't know how old Ki-Adi-Mundi was. Could he potentially have an extended lifetime? Stuff like that.
All we could really guess is some of the aliens, some of the alien Jedi might be around, but you would think the humanoids didn't exist at this point in time. Not that humans didn't exist, just they were still seeds within their parents' loins, is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they weren't born yet. So
I would like to see Yoda, a slightly younger Yoda. Maybe he's got a little more swag. Maybe he doesn't quite, I don't know, 50 years before TPM. Do you think he still has the cane? I mean, because he would be clocking in at almost 800 at this point, right? So
I think he does, because I think the cane might just be something that race has to use just for like normal walking, because of like how their bodies.
Yeah, their legs are so little. We've kind of seen it in Grogu. Like, I mean, unless he jumps or gets force walked, their gait is like an inch. They're like like their little feet are just scooting on the ground. They kind of wobble a bit. So that's a good point. So I'm with you. Like I said, a lot of people, they're not happy that Leslie Headland's doing it, probably because she's a gay woman. But I love what she did in Russian Dolls. I actually need to dive into the second season to see what Natasha's up to. But I'm with you. I mean, anything that kind of, and I'm a Skywalker Saga fucking fanboy. There's no doubt about it. But anytime we can kind of step out of that and get away from it completely, which, I mean, what do we have? Really nothing at this point.
Yeah.
Even the Mandoverse ended up getting sucked into the Skywalker Saga. So
it's in the Skywalker Saga now, like heavily entrenched.
That's right. I mean, the Acolyte truly could be our one project or property that does not get smothered by the fabled Skywalker Saga and all its tropes. So yeah, I like that. I mean, like new stuff. Give me something new. I mean, I'll form an opinion once I see it. I'm not going to form my opinion based on the color of people or the sex of people. So I'm with you. And, you know, hopefully if this report's accurate, they're going to shoot from October to May, which means we could be looking at a late fall release in 23 of the Acolyte.
Yeah. So I'm excited for it. One other thing that I'm excited for, Matt, transitioning over to our next topic, is this new Star Wars game.
Yeah.
Coming from Amy Hennig. And for those of you who are unfamiliar, Amy Hennig is the mastermind.
Yeah, she's the
behind the Uncharted franchise.
Right. Everything about it too. Like did she create the character or
She created the character. And she saw it through almost to completion. She left Naughty Dog at the time after she had started work on Uncharted 4. And like, there's a lot of questions about her departure. Was her departure essentially like, was she ousted because they thought that the brass at Naughty Dog thought that like, hey, Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley, who are the two behind The Last of Us, were just like the guys and just let them do everything. But she was the master of the Uncharted video game franchise, which is one of my favorite video game franchises to ever
when
exist.
I saw this last week, because I told you, I knew you were just coming home and the news dropped right before I went live. I'm like, listen, I'm just going to announce it, but when you're back, we'll talk about this. And I'm glad I did wait because, you know, Nick punched up the article, which was kind of, it was light. They didn't give us much. They just said, hey, Amy working with Skydance now, which is working with Lucasfilm Games on an unannounced Star Wars project. And then a day later over at MSW and some other outlets, which I'm just going to open that up now, Nick, his coverage. A lot of these leakers out there are like, yo, yeah, this is going to be the canceled Star Wars Ragtag that she was initially working on at, what are they called?
Visceral.
Yeah, Visceral. So go ahead. I mean, you know plenty about this, but yeah, this Ragtag game, and I have Making Star Wars' article up because they had a ton of the concept art, which could very well, they're saying like, yeah, we've heard this. She more or less is revitalizing Ragtag.
Yeah, I mean, Ragtag was going to be, and this new game is also described as an action adventure narrative driven single player game in the Star Wars universe. And that's something that Matt and I have been calling for a while, and that's been seriously lacking. And it's her strong suit. Like if you've ever played an Uncharted game, that's what they are. They are as close to video game cinema as you can get while still being playable. I mean, that's why that Uncharted translated so well to movie theaters and to big screens. But essentially, when she was at Visceral, that was her project. She was working on a narrative-based action-adventure game that was supposed to come out probably around 2019. It was one of the first projects that was slated by EA when they had taken on the Star Wars license. Yeah, I mean, like this was almost announced from like day one. Like once the license was officially announced, they were like, "Hey, we have Amy Hennig from Naughty Dog at Visceral, and they're already working on this game."
The studio that brought you Dead Space is going to bring you a Star Wars action-adventure game. Yeah!
Exactly. But as with everything EA-related, it kind of fell to pieces, and they canceled the project in 2019. So like for me, as soon as I saw this, my first thought was like, I wonder if they're going to take elements of that game and use it to build into whatever the new one is at Skydance, and it seems like they are doing that.
Yeah, that's what all the leakers are confirming here. So it's going to be completely original characters set during the original trilogy timeline. And believe it or not, it doesn't look like if they do stick to Ragtag, you're not going to be a Jedi. You're not going to really be a Force user. You're going to be more of like a Han Solo-ish in this character Dodger Boone, who was apparently the main protagonist in Ragtag. But it looks like he worked with a group, right, Nick? I mean, you'd kind of be traveling with a group of characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars has all the art. We can just kind of riff on.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it as like an ancillary or like a new take, like an Uncharted take to the Star Wars universe, like you have to think that like Nate always had people he was running with, whether it was him and Sully, him, Sully and Sam, him, Sully, Sam, or him, Sully and Elena. Like he always had a crew. So essentially they're taking that and they're bringing it into Star Wars. And what's really cool about it, if they stick with the Uncharted formula, is they traveled all over the place in Uncharted. Yeah. And there's so much opportunity for a band like this, whether they be smugglers. I don't think that they would be bounty hunters. I think that like the most likely thing for them to be is like part of like smuggling den or something like that. They're doing something in the underworld, but it gives them unlimited options to go to so many different planets that either we've explored only in movies or on animated shows, or just like planets that we've never explored before. Like you have this huge open galaxy that you can use that is completely at your disposal for a narrative driven game where you have a group of people who are always on the move. And like, I think that would be such an interesting take. Like, I guess you could say it would be similar to what we saw with Jedi Fallen Order, where like you are visiting a lot of different planets there, but like the level of exploration that would be available to you in a game like this, I think would be so cool. Yeah,
I mean, it's, going back to MSW's coverage of Ragtag and what they think this game is ultimately going to be. It's going to be set after A New Hope, before Empire. The Empire's really clamped down after Alderaan got blown up and the Death Star got blown up. And you are going to be following this Ragtag crew. And to me, Nick, it would be like if Han and Chewie had 2 or 3 other partners, right?
Exactly.
That type, the very scoundrel-esque, smuggler-ish. I mean, it looks like you're going to be working either for the Hutts or another syndicate in some form or fashion. So you aren't just the good guys and girls. You kind of are in that gray anti-hero type of area. Is that kind of what the feel you're getting?
Yeah. I mean, looking at the concept art and knowing like what kind of character she was planning on for Ragtag, I think that we're going to see something like that. And what I enjoy about it that's different than Jedi Fallen Order was Jedi Fallen Order, you were essentially doing everything in stealth. Like the game itself wasn't a stealth game, but by nature of the fact that you are a Jedi who has survived Order 66 meant that like you couldn't really interact with the world around you. Like you had to literally like go to a place and then try to just get out with whatever you needed without causing a stir. And with the type of characters that we're talking about here for this new game, you can interact with the world around you as much as you want because you're just a smuggler. Like you're just like he listed here under the Dodger Boone abilities and stuff like that. Fast talking charmer, 40-year-old male, primary protagonist, stuff like that. So he's going to be like a charmer. He's going to be talking to these different people, building relationships and stuff. And I think that is something that we haven't really seen from a Star Wars game in a long time.
I was just thinking, man, I mean, we really haven't had a Star Wars game that we really haven't had anything outside of Battlefront. I guess that involves shooting, but I'm talking like a story game that involves third-person, first-person shooting since what? Jedi Academy and Outcasts? And even then, you ended up using a fucking lightsaber anyway, so you almost have to go back to, what, Dark Forces? When you had a purebred shooter Star Wars game?
Yeah, I mean, you could say that the campaign mode of Battlefront 2 was probably the last time that we saw. But
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
That was not the same.
You win this time, young Nick.
It's not the same as like a full-on game that's dedicated, like single-player experience game that's dedicated to that type of thing. Like, while the Battlefront 2 campaign was nice, it was definitely like a tack on. They were like, here you go. We'll give you.
Yeah, like you said. I mean, what was it? Maybe 4 to 6 hours tops. It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't really. They didn't make Battlefront 2 for that. They made that just to supplement and hopefully clear up any bitching from Battlefront 1, where they just gave you the multiplayer. So yeah, I mean, I really do. Just kind of looking over MSW's coverage, I hope this is, or a lot of the concepts from Ragtag that Amy has pulled them through over to Skydance and Lucasfilm Games. Who knows? I mean, if it's a rights thing, I still think Lucasfilm probably owns the ultimate right, so they can probably tell EA to go fuck off. Nope, we let you use the license. We still own any ideas you come up with because they're set in Star Wars. Duh. Yeah. So I do hope it crosses over. And this is something, especially because StarWars.com teased it last week, that this could very well be something that is going to get some play at Celebration. Maybe in a cinematic trailer to kind of, really get those juices flowing down in the nether regions. And then maybe throughout the video game expo season, which has already started. I think PAX was last week or this week, and it's just going to roll into not E3, but I mean, we're there, so we could start getting a little more on this. But with all things video game development these days, especially in Star Wars, I'd imagine we're still probably 2-3 years away. Sadly, hopefully just 2 from actually getting to play this. So there you go. As always, we'll keep you abreast of any developments on what we hope is going to end up being Star Wars Ragtag. I kind of like the name at first. I'm like, Ragtag? But yeah, they're a ragtag crew of motherfuckers, right? And they're going to get their Star Wars on. Okay. So a quick one here, and this is just kind of a public service announcement, and it feels like it's taken a little while for this announcement, but it looks like we're finally going to get the Disney Gallery, the Book of Boba Fett episode, which, if you've been keeping score, anytime you get Disney Gallery, it's a nice little behind-the-scenes look at one of the Disney Plus live-action series. So it looks like we're finally going to get the one for Book of Boba, so you can see what those Vespas looked like on whatever rigs they had and how slow things were on Star Wars Day. So next week already, believe it or not, Star Wars Day is next fucking Wednesday.
No, right? That's crazy. So I was talking to Taylor and I was like, oh yeah, like this, they announced something. They announced like a new set of phone cases from Casetify. And like, I don't have a great phone case now for my new one. And I was like, oh, look at these cases. They're like all official Star Wars cases from Casetify. And she's like, when did they come out? And I was like, May 4th. She's like, of course they come out on Star Wars Day.
She loves it. You need to get her a shirt. May the 4th be with you.
Dude, no, she has a couple Star Wars shirts that she wears and stuff like that. And I got her. It was funny because like one time she went to this brewery by her house. It's like literally 5 minutes away. And she used to go on Fridays to like work there, just like sit down, do some work, grab a beer, stuff like that. And one day she wore a Star Wars t-shirt. And one of the guys behind she got a discount. One of the guys that was working there was like, oh, look at that. You fell into the, every Friday we give people discounts for Star Wars t-shirts.
Hey, and look at that.
But she never got it again. So like after that, I bought her a Star Wars t-shirt. It was like around like her birthday or something like that. I was like, here you go, you can wear this. And she tried, didn't work. Rejected. It was a different person, no discount.
Yeah. So essentially he was trying to hit on her. What that discount was. But hey, it's Star Wars Day, babe. Here's that discount. How about those digits? And then Nick comes in like fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin and chugs a couple beers and then stuns his ass.
Boom. Yep.
So yeah,
that's how it went.
I'm excited. I always like watching these. It's kind of I always love them and hate them because as I'm watching them, I realize like, yeah, I made too many bad decisions in life. I should have ended up doing something like this versus talking to my buddy Nick in my basement. But oh well. At least we get to watch some great Star Wars content on the small screen. So, there's, as Nick said, I mean, like most contrived holidays or Hallmark holidays, as they call them, May the 4th has fully transitioned into let's try to sell some fucking merch day for Star Wars. So he's not wrong. I mean, expect next week to be full of announcements, reveals, and knickknacks that you can collect and add to your collection. Plus, I don't know, maybe they'll tease us with something. But according to those in the know, Kenobi footage this week. Not maybe some next week,
within a matter of days.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, MSW is saying by the 28th, this shall have come out. And the fact that we're at 5:00 on a Tuesday, it's definitely not happening today. So we have 2 days left, Wednesday and Thursday, to see what we get. But yeah, who knows? I mean, it figures next week. Star Wars Day is on a Wednesday, which means any of the big announcements that everyone gets excited about, we will have to sit on them until the following Tuesday. But that's just kind of how things work at the Star Wars Time Show. Hey, look at that. Bat right here. 2797 Studios on Instagram. They have a Star Wars Day sale planned. So Bat got the memo. Hallmark sent it down. You got to drive sales on Star Wars Day. Go. Right. Go. Yeah, but hopefully that Kenobi footage shows up before next week. Like I said, by the 28th is what I've heard, what I've been told. Okay, man. We may have to pivot the fan segment because I don't think I uploaded any responses yet. Oh,
I did.
Nick,
I just grabbed
good.
5 real quick while we were talking about it.
You demand. So I didn't say anything. The show will proceed as scheduled.
It's like, strike that from the record.
All right, so on to the fan segment, my friends. I know it's been a long one today, but we had a fantastic interview. If you're just joining now, make sure to scrub all the way back to the beginning where we had Emmy Award-winning, Saturn Award winner Brian Sipe on the show for damn near an hour and a half talking about just doing makeup in Hollywood on big budget films and TV series. But now it's time for the fans. One of the only shows, the only Star Wars fan podcast on the planet that dedicates time to its fans.
Right.
Too bad we only have a few, but they are great. And that's why we do what we do. So there's always 2 ways to get involved in the fan segment. The first one, as we're going to be talking about, is the question of the week, which happens every Tuesday morning on Instagram at Star Wars Time Show. Look for the prompt in our stories and the feed itself. And then the second way to get onto the Star Wars Time Show fan segment is our top 5, which we'll be talking about here in a few short minutes. So Nick, let me go ahead and get all right. I got them all in one. I like
post.
How you did it. I like the way Nick's thinking. Wait till you see this pick.
I literally I looked at it because I was like, okay, we're coming to the fan segment. Let me pull it up, and I panicked and I was like, I'm just grabbing the first 5.
He's like, fuck it, we're gonna do a bulk screenshot here. So, if you were one of the first few commenters, you're probably going to be featured in the segment. So
you're on it. You got your time in the sun here. But actually, these people are some of the ones that interact with the show the most.
All right.
You may see them around in the chats. You may see them around in the comment sections of the Instagram posts and stuff like that. So not too bad that I pulled these.
Yeah, hey, like I said, I like the way you're thinking. We needed it up quick. You got it done. So the question this week is, I guess we're not done with it yet. Would you have preferred Maul in the Kenobi series, or is Darth Vader the better fit? So I always try to theme it to something we're talking about. So let's see what they had to say, if I can get the hell. All right, here's Nick's box.
There we go. First up, Lima4 Photos says, Darth Vader, the reunion of the 2 CW bros, Clone Wars bros, the reunion of the actors themselves, and the overall logical path of the story. All of it just makes too much sense in favor of Vader. I wouldn't mind some sort of Maul cameo, though. I can live without it too. So
would a cameo even be too much? I almost think it is. I almost think it could be.
I don't think a cameo would be too much if it isn't teasing something else.
Okay.
Like,
yeah.
If it's just a straight cameo where like fucking Darth Maul is literally like walking down the street, or you just see him in like a canteen or something like that, then no.
He's like fucking passed out at a bar, or he's got like hookers around his arms, living that good Crimson Dawn life.
Exactly. But if it's a stinger, like if it's a stinger to set up something else, or if it's like a cameo that's like giving you breadcrumbs towards another project that maybe worked on, then I'm okay with it.
I can get down with that. All right, who's next?
My thoughts. Mythos Boba is next, and he says, Maul would have been awesome, but I think his storyline from Rebels fits. This one with Vader and the Inquisitors hunting Jedi fits much better and makes more sense, I think. Can't wait.
You don't have to think, Mythos. We think for you, and we are telling you you're right.
We think too.
Yes.
So there we go. We think sometimes.
I try to. Yes, I'm not good at it, but I definitely give at least 50%.
Yes. Ying Keat 0675 says Darth Vader. That's it.
Short and to the fucking point. Thanks, Ying.
Yeah. Boom. Vader. Nothing else needs to be said. And that's right. Nothing else needs to be said. 2797 Studio. So there we go. Bat in the chat says, as others have said, Vader is the way. Maul and Kenobi had their moment in Rebels, and it's best left alone.
Preach.
So he doesn't want to see Maul ever again. That's what I take from Bat's comment.
Maul, die.
No more Maul ever.
Bat's still offended over the possible Ray Park dick pic scandal.
He just hates it.
Yes, he can't get past seeing Ray's penis.
Can't have that man back on the screen.
Ray Schlong.
And then the final one, F-Stop Rebel says, I think Vader is the right choice. We saw Maul and Kenobi in Rebels, and I loved every moment of that. I think it's the brothers' turn to work through some stuff, literally,
like that,
or just story-wise.
You were my brother, Anakin! I hate you! God damn, I think it just blew out my vocal.
Oh, no. Good thing we're almost at the other
shit. Don't do that.
But,
okay.
But yeah, I mean, look, I'm in agreement with a lot of the people here that we did get a good dose of Maul and Kenobi through Rebels, and I think that storyline does stand well on its own. But I am still of the mindset that we could have a Maul either through line or single season, whatever, that really does cover him before we see him back in Rebels.
Yeah.
Like really delve into the Crimson Dawn angle, and then what led him from Crimson Dawn to where we see him.
I mean, he was king shit. He was king shit. He was doing exactly what he's like, you know what? I couldn't convince Ahsoka to team up with me so we could have ruled the whole galaxy, so I'll just stick with these crime syndicate idiots and live like a king. I mean, he was even wearing fucking medallions by the time Solo rolls around. Like he was living the good life. If you saw his lieutenant ship, it was like one of the most highfalutin, expensive-looking vehicles in all of Star Wars. So what do you think Maul was tolling around in? I mean,
oh man, he was a
king's king.
Lap of
so yeah, I mean, what finally? I mean, I don't know. Maybe events of this series, Nick, are what tips him off to where Kenobi is. I mean, because remember, the whole point of Rebels was Maul didn't know where Kenobi was at. That's why he needed Ezra and the holocron. But maybe just hearing that a potential famous Jedi has been spotted and some think it's Kenobi, maybe that gets his mind back into that single focus on Kenobi again, and then ultimately he starts to go crazy and sets off on his journey. But I don't know. I mean, if they do it right and like you said, it's just kind of like a passing moment that has meaning, sure. But I think overall, Vader is plenty badass for the Kenobi series, no doubt.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be super cool. I think it's going to be super cool with just Vader. I don't think you need Maul in there.
No.
But if they do throw a stinger in there that sets up something Maul related, I would be all for it.
True that.
So
True that. I mean,
that's what I'll put.
Vader and Kenobi clearly have the stronger tie, but I'd say one of Kenobi's next strongest ties was the Maul, 100%.
Yeah.
From Maul's perspective, and that's kind of what Kenobi says to him as he kills him, like, bro, I haven't fucking thought about you since I cut you in half, loser. You know, I mean, like
you've been kind of out of my zone.
You kind of upset me when you killed Satine, but I'm a Jedi. I'm a freak like that. I've learned to not really care about people I love getting murdered. So I honestly haven't given you an ounce of thought, and that's why I just killed you in one move, because you're so fucking focused on being angry at me that I was just like, wee, you're dead.
That was it.
All right. All right, Nick, this week, because you're here, I remembered to actually switch back to the top 5. Last week, I think I got through 2 of these shots without it being displayed, and the chat's like, hey, idiot, we can't see anything.
You're not showing anything.
It's like, well, now you know what now you know how the podcast only fans feel like when we get to the top 5. So deal with it.
That's why we always try to give good descriptions of what things look like.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this is a great shot. Look at this. Look at that effect. Look at those colors. I love this figure. And they're like, we're still looking at fucking Skype or Slack, you assholes. Like, all right.
Yeah, it's like if we're not seeing it.
I remember this week. So here we are. We are at the top 5. Like I said, your second way to get on to the Star Wars Time Show's fan segment. Throughout the week, I check for any tags on at Star Wars Time Show, as well as the hashtag Star Wars Time Show. And I'll sit there and I'll share those out. I'll feature those shots. And then on Monday, King Nick sits down at his digital throne and picks through all those weekly features and chooses the top 5 favorites. That is, it doesn't mean they're the overall best. They're Nick's personal favorites from the shots I featured. So my friend, we are here for the top 5 Star Wars Artists of the Week, covering 418 through 425. Who did you knight this week?
This week starts off with at Zord.photography.
I think I picked him last week too with these fucking beautiful hot toy shots.
Yeah, I would say Zord's been on a tear recently, because I think I had featured him like a couple weeks back as well. But I mean, when you're putting out shots like this, what we're looking at here with Grievous, all 4 arms, armed up with lightsabers ignited, and then just standing menacingly over this sure to be dead clone trooper. I mean, it was like the atmosphere, the coloration of the scene with the lighting effects of the lightsabers, the shadowing and everything else is just fantastic. This looks like something out of a movie or a TV show. Just
you know
next
what,
level
man?
type
At
of
one
shot.
point in time, I thought this was like a 1/6 scale shot. I don't think it is. I think these are Black Series figures, and that's even more impressive, because that is a fantastic Grievous shot. And you got, like Nick said, Grievous is, he's a spread eagle here, all arms out, locked and loaded with sabers. But then you have like a 501 clone on his back, arm up, like, no, that position, like, oh, I'm going to get fucking cut in half. But as you said, I love just the setup. It's simple. And Zord must have a spot out on a patio or something where you just get a perfect thread of light that comes through the scene, which not only lights the figures, but also provides that kick-ass atmosphere effect. If I switch to the next shot, you can see what I mean. I mean, just look how those light rays come in, and then the atmosphere accentuates them. It just, I wish I could find a spot like this in my yard. It's either too much sun or not enough to kind of get that light ray effect. But when you can get those light rays going on, you don't need crazy ass dioramas behind you, right? I mean, Who cares that it's just a black background, honestly? I mean, the foreground and the subjects look so good with that natural light. I'm jealous of that setup there.
Just beautiful natural light, beautiful posing. Just even like the simple work with like giving some light reflections on the smoke from the lightsaber blades. I mean, just top notch stuff from at Zord.photography. Beautiful work.
Amen.
Next up, we have at Mark Walker Photo. He hasn't been in top 5 for a while, but this is a fun little shot here of Farm Boy Luke going through his record collection while sitting on his old beat up land speeder and just like putting on some tunes, man. Just listen to stuff. You got Dark Side of the Moon there for Pink Floyd. There's
a Queen
David
album,
Bowie
right?
Queen, Kiss. I think there's
Beatles,
a Kiss album down there
Beatles
too.
down there.
Yeah, David Bowie. I mean, just some good shit. Like you could. Farm Boy Luke had some good taste in music. If this is what he was putting on the turntables and the Lars homestead.
Do you think Dark Side of the Moon is like an album that Anakin left behind at the homestead when he went and visited Klieg and his
maybe this
his
was one of the
stepbrother?
things that Baru who gave him. It's like, your father left this for you. This was his Dark Side of the Moon album.
Don't tell Owen or he'll beat me. I think. Exactly. I mean, I think we're going to see it more. But by the time we see Owen in A New Hope, he is the grouchiest motherfucker in Star Wars. Like, if I was Luke, I would have got up and headbutt the motherfucker and be like, "Blow me."
Yeah,
all right?
I'm surprised that he didn't have like any latent force activity around him, just like when he would get angry.
Yes, exactly.
At Uncle Owen, like just something flies off the wall, and they're like, "Oh,
I mean, he's force royalty. We've deemed that. I mean, Johnson was trying to show us like, hey, you can be pretty prominent in the Force without being tied to the Skywalkers or Palpatines, but now that's all ruined again. So he was. I mean, he was. Anytime this guy would have dropped a load, he was probably shooting out 10 or 15,000 midichlorians. You know what I mean? I mean, he is packed.
Exactly.
You know what, man? I love bringing real world stuff into Star Wars, but I also love when artists like Mark Walker Photo take the time to craft those tiny fucking props. I mean, think about how tiny those fucking records are. And he's got the sleeves, the record, and the record player. I mean, dude, they got to be like palm size, tiny. I mean, that figure's little. That figure's only 6 inches tall.
Yeah, I mean, it's impressive to put all of the work into getting all the set pieces, like you said. So, I mean, it was awesome to see a shot like this from Mark. I mean, not even mentioning just like the setup and all the work that it took to pose the figure sitting on the speeder and everything else. I mean,
that's no easy task. Getting these little plastic fucks to sit like that. I mean, it looks natural, but I guarantee you, Mark was fighting that little son of a bitch. Like, no, I want you to sit this way and you cross your legs this way, and then Luke falls over, and then you got to do it again, and then Luke falls over, and now you know why I lose my fucking mind while doing toy photography.
There you go. And look at this. We got Zord Photography in the chat here too. Thank you, Zord, for sitting in on the show. Hope you enjoyed.
Zord, I need a slice of that natural sunlight that you got wherever you're at. I love that little shooting location you got there.
Beautiful stuff. All right. Next up in the top 5 is at Elayton_photography. It's ELEYTON_photography, and it's a figure that we rarely see. I mean, I don't know if you see more of them because you're looking at a much larger mass of photography than me, but we rarely see Asajj Ventress figures popping up in the feed. Here's how things go. You're not wrong.
Asajj came out a few months ago, and she was kind of hot then, and that's how toy photography is. When a new figure comes out, you can expect to start to see a lot of toy photography shots with it. I'd say this month's muse are those people that have traveled to the future and have somehow gotten the Mandalorian Ahsoka figure. Because there has been a ton of shots last week and this week, which means a lot of people are getting her finally shipped, even though she's not supposed to come out until 2023. Who the fuck knows what's going on with Hasbro Distro anymore? But you're not wrong. Asajj has not been popping up as much as she did when she first released to consumers.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at her, like Asajj is such a visually interesting character because of her face tattoos and because of all the accessories that come with her, dual lightsabers and all. And I think that Elayton did a really good job of accentuating those things in the shot, even though it is a shot that is mostly focused on the visceral post-processing effects that Elayton did on the lightsabers. Yeah,
I love that. That saber effect's fantastic.
Like lightning arcing over the sabers, and then she has both of them kind of crossed in front of her, but still kind of like bringing out her form. The awesome... I don't know if this is like the clothes that come with her, if this is like the soft goods.
Yeah, no, that's what she looks like. I mean, she was a great release. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we would see more of this because it really does capture the visage and the personage, like the personage of Asajj Ventress so well, and I think that Elaton Photography did a great job kind of bringing her to life with this.
She
image.
really is. I mean, to me, she's one of the most underrated Star Wars characters of all time. I think she first started in Tarkovsky's, or how the fuck you say his name, Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Where she had a great arc with Anakin, and I still love his Clone Wars because it did show Anakin again, his arrogance and how he would let that get himself in trouble, and she would always play him on that. And they had a fantastic battle on some random planet. But even then, when she got recanonized in the real Clone Wars, again, a fucking killer arc. Count Dooku's apprentice, who eventually gets betrayed by Dooku like a Sith would. And she goes back to her, her family and her kind on Dathomir. And then that gets, the genocide by Grievous happens. And then she becomes a bounty hunter and is working with Boba Fett. And then ultimately ends up kind of working with Ahsoka when Barriss is fucking things up. And it's kind of a bummer, Nick, that her tale kind of got written out in, I believe, like a book or a comic book, and I don't know if it's canon.
Ends up
or
getting, I believe she ends up dying in the Dark Disciple book, which I think is canon because it was written post acquisition and is not considered a Legends book.
Okay. Didn't she also hook up with one of the Jedi? What's his name?
Yeah, it was
Quinlan.
Oh, God,
is it Quinlan Voss?
It was Quinlan Voss.
Yeah.
Quinlan Voss. Yes, Quinlan Voss. Yeah.
No, I mean that's a character. A character I'd love to see in live action. Right here, this one, right here.
Yeah. Yeah. Easy. Like, bring her into live action with such an interesting look, man. I think that would be it would be such a cool character to bring in. I don't know how they would do it, but I think this is one they could do the makeup and fans would not fucking destroy it because she is mostly humanoid. I know her head was a little more oval shaped, but I mean, for the most part, slap on some white paint and face tattoos and you're off to the races. Yeah. Again, I don't know the timing of her apparent death, but maybe Bad Batch. Could she come back in then, or has she already been killed? I don't know, but either way, I think she might be able to make her way into Bad Batch. So
I do think,
but yeah, I mean,
underrated character, but a good shot of Asajj from @Elaton_photography.
Indeed, good stuff. Next up is @Brandon72678, and this is a shot like. When I looked at it, I was like, this looks like a pretty straightforward, simple shot. But I mean, it's just crisp. It's well done. It has good detail in your background. So what we see here are three stormtrooper commanders, I believe, because they have the shoulder pauldrons, and they're just like, looks like they're on mission, maybe even like looking for somebody within an Imperial facility.
To me, sorry to step in there, but I'm getting like the Dayu vibes. That new planet.
Oh yeah, with the coloration
Kenobi.
Of the background. Yeah, because basically what you have is like competing lights coming from the background. From the left side of the image, you have red light. From the right side, blue light. And it kind of just mixes to make this awesome like background coloration, and it does kind of give you like Dayu vibes from the images from Total Film for Kenobi. I don't know. I mean, like this shot is just maybe it was just like the coloration and the background that really caught me, but I just thought it was like a cool. Yeah, I mean, for me,
I believe this is the Brandon that sometimes joins the stream, like one of our diehards. I don't know for sure. I mean. It could be Grief Cardboard, or for all we know. But I think this is a Brandon that actually tunes into the show. And to me, what caught my eye when I did the initial feature is, you're right, it's the backlight. Especially that orange kind of coming out of that open door. And I even like that whatever space age vending machine behind them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like that. It just fits in universe.
I mean, stormtroopers, they look great. We all know they suck at their jobs, but they look good doing it. So
they look menacing.
As all things Imperials go, I mean, they might not be good at what they do, but they look good when they're doing it.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, the shot itself, really crisp, really nice. I love the background coloration.
It's just
posing of the
good
figures.
lighting all
Awesome.
around. Just a well lit shot. And I think one of the troopers, the one, or at least where I'm looking at on the left side, I think that's the new Jeddah patrol trooper, because it's got that bigger pack, where the other two were the ones looking for the droids in the sands of Tatooine.
Indeed. So good stuff at Brandon72678 on Instagram. Good stuff. And then finally, last one of the top 5 this week is from at _re _ animation _
Nope, it's one of those multi underscores. Last week, because you weren't here, I almost had like an OCD moment with underscores. I could not stop saying them. It is weird. Oh, it was like underscore.
So many. I mean, people have to put a lot of underscores into their names now.
Rippic with the double underscore tan may be my favorite though. The old old tricky double underscore.
The bing bing double underscore right in there.
Rippic bing bing tan.
So for reanimation, what we have is an awesome shot using, I believe these are the Hot Toys Mandalorian figures and the figure arts. Okay, figure arts Mandalorian figures. And what we have is our good buddy Din, full Beskar Din, it looks like, standing next to Neo Boba Fett, and they're looking over a holo table, and the holo table has a beautiful projection of some planet, Earth-like planet, it looks like, and they're both just kind of studying the land masses of this planet. But it's just so well done with all of the background detail, like the background dio, the full table, the light emitting from the table, making the diagram of the planet, and then just the positioning of the figures of both Boba and Din. I mean, just top-notch stuff.
Look at you, all these years breaking these down. You're like a professional toy photography reviewer now. I don't even need to talk. I love it because
it's just,
you hit it all. It's just a well laid out scene. I mean, to me, this was them meeting in the bowels of Slave One before their mission in the season 2, episode 8 of The Mandalorian. Right, exactly. They're kind of planning the attack on Gideon's ship. Maybe they're looking at the planet where Bo and Costco were at, getting ready to land there. But being a former, I guess I'm still lightly attached to toy photography. I do share shots every once,
dabbler,
every now and then. But it looks like you got that ubiquitous thing from Nova Reval as the background there, like the one that I built, or my wife built for me like 3 years ago for Father's Day, that I still have not broken down, and will only use it in the form it has been constructed in. And then, that could be some cardboard there for the table, but putting the jetpack up there and Boba's helmet adds to the scene. It's world building, my friends. But to me, I went right to, this is them in the Mandalorian planning out that mission. So,
dude, it's perfect Job, like portraying what a scene would look like in the show. So at _animation_ the last member of the top 5 this week. That's the end of the top 5. That's the end of our very special edition of the Star Wars Time Show. I hope you all enjoyed the interview with Brian.
I mean,
I will catch up on it again.
That was the first time we talked to someone since like October?
Yeah,
I think Neil. I know Neil Ellis was our last guest because his name was still on the OBS setup when I was prepping today for Brian. It's been a while. I'm kind of glad we took a break from that, because I'm not gonna lie, like, I don't get nervous talking to these people, but I get anxious. Especially, starting like Sunday night, I'm like, all right, gotta get my research done, gotta figure out the flow of this interview. Hopefully he can connect. Hopefully we don't have issues. Of course we had issues. Brian was stalling out. Nick dropped out, but we got through it. And I think it was a great chat, because even at the end, I'm like, hey man, I've had you here for almost an hour and a half. He's like, oh my goodness, it's been that long, which means he was enjoying the conversation. So Nick's right. He's got some homework, but the rest of you, if you missed the Brian Sipe interview, I encourage you to check it out. It takes place over the first hour and a half of today's episode. Again, he's an Emmy and Saturn award-winning makeup artist who's worked on everything from Star Trek movies to the MCU to Terminator to our beloved Star Wars, in particular, The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. And Dude and his team won an Emmy for their work on Ahsoka Tano. So even if you didn't think it looked good enough, they got a fucking trophy for it. So get over it. And you do make these people feel bad, as Brian said. Listen to his words. I think that was one of the best parts of the interview was I got to ask an actual artist working on Star Wars who has had his work destroyed by fans, how does that make you feel? And I think he gave us a very honest answer. So all that and more in the latest episode of the Star Wars Time Show. So let's go ahead and put her to bed, my friends. We know what to do if you've been here before. If you have not, it's time to dance on over to StarWarsTime.net. And why, you may ask? Well, because we want the traffic, but more importantly, we just want you to see our lovely little website that we spend money on and sometimes work on. But also, it has very easy to find and clickable links to our podcast platforms. And for those of you that like the live stream, our YouTube channel, which you can access right through the site, StarWarsTime.net. Scroll down, click on subscribe, or YouTube.com/Star Wars Time Show. We love you. Keep it coming. We appreciate the support. If you want to join the Discord, I get in there and kind of chat throughout the week with some of the bigger fans of the show. We have an open link in our Instagram link tree. We'd love for you to join the party. And if you have, and you're not scared yet, or you don't feel too creepy, go ahead and try to bring a friend. Those of you that have been around for a while, we know you've tried, and we do speak your names for it. But let's just keep casually throwing it out there. And it's celebration if you want to. Feel free to get yourself a white Fruit of the Loom shirt and write "We Love Star Wars Time Show" on it, and then StarWarsTime.net on the back. I'll buy the marker and the shirts if you want to do it. But yeah, we just like talking with like-minded individuals about the Star Wars. Because there's always time for Star Wars time. We don't call our show that for no reason. Because we always find time to talk about the Star Wars. And besides, if you do listen to this simple little show with an angry little man and a wise young man, the Force will be with you. Always.